gentlemen.
Good afternoon. How are
day,
you, Chad?
Captain, my captain.
Travis?
Doctor.
Doctor. We did that at a church I used to go to. We were all ex-colonels from the Air Force, and we'd say, "Good morning, Colonel."
Colonel.
Yeah, back and forth.
I got mine from Lethal Weapon. You know, the doctor.
Yeah.
Except they go captain.
Okay. All right.
Anyway.
Had to get in a movie.
It's the last one when they got in, when they got their badges, they became captains, I think, or something. I don't remember. Anyway, it's been a minute.
All right. Well, obviously, probably most people have heard some of the news that's come down the pipeline. But I know since our local media doesn't share things, I'm trying to share as much as I feel.
J.D. Vance murdered the Pope.
Oh, was that what happened?
Yeah.
You didn't hear about that?
That sounds like something I'd hear in the news.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's going to get impeached for it or something. Yeah, but so apparently RFK has banned food dyes in our food supply, which I think is generally good. I've always kind of wondered why we really need food dyes in food. I mean,
you can use, dyes from carrots or dyes from beets or all of those kinds of things to make, Fruit Loops. But it's cheaper to just get the dye there.
Well, I guess the coloring of Fruit Loops is the gimmick that kids want to eat it because it's colorful.
Yeah.
Well, if you look at EU
Fruit
Fruit
Loops
Loops versus US Fruit Loops, they're different colors.
Are they?
Because EU won't allow the dyes.
Okay. Well, I'm not a big Fruit Loop person, but
no, me either.
I kind of feel like they're not good for you anyway, and there's just a bunch of sugar. Mm-hmm. So why should we even have any of it in there? If it's not good enough to stand on its own and sell, why do we need it?
My kid won't eat Raisin Bran. That's probably why.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's very sugary.
Raisin
very sugary
Bran's
too.
the only one that has some decency to it.
But still got quite a bit of sugar in it.
I prefer the crunch version, the Raisin Bran crunch. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I don't need a lot of cereal either.
So one of the things that we're going to continue hitting on, as mentioned, is anything related to mRNA.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's been was it Minnesota? I wrote it down, I think. Minnesota filed
to remove all mRNA
vaccines.
Well, thank goodness.
So it's not a done deal in Minnesota, but it is a early bell, I hope.
There are other states that have done that. I can't remember off the top of my head which ones.
Was it filed an injunction, maybe? Is that what it is?
Yeah. I think it was one of the western states, one of the conservative western states.
Yeah, say sure the heck wasn't
like
California,
Utah or Idaho.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, RFK is calling for radical transparency in our food. Is what he's trying to do, and our whole deal with the vaccines is I want radical transparency in vaccines.
Yeah.
I want to see the data, know the data. It used to be, fake news to talk about the skyrocketing rates of autism.
Yeah.
Even when we first started meeting, it was like weren't really getting the real numbers, and it's gone from 1 to 10,000, 1 in every 10,000 kids to something along the lines of 1 in 36. Apparently, California, and they think maybe because the reporting is better, they're saying now 1 in 12 boys has some level of autism.
Yeah,
it's just going to be most people that if you don't have a child with autism, they don't understand the crippling effect it has on your finances.
It is. Yeah, and there are a lot of places that have sprung up in Evansville where you can take your child to get certain types of therapy if they have autism. There's one that has gone from a place with like 1,500 square feet to like 25,000 square feet. Mm-hmm. It's a huge thing.
Speaking of that, when RFK said what he did about families that have a child with autism, that kind of backfired a little bit. I saw a lot of people up in arms about that. But
he didn't call them.
Can you say more words about what you're
doing? He had mentioned how they would never hold a job, never be happy, never like all these. He just had this whole, and it's unfortunate. And there are some that are that way, that are so bad that it's but not all of them.
He kind of overspoke.
I mean, you even brought. I think you sent something to
he
me.
misspoke, but what I think, if he had it to probably redo, he would say, some a certain percentage, and I don't even know what the percentage.
I mean,
is.
it's more difficult with versus without.
Oh, yeah.
That's probably a true statement.
There's
But the way he
yeah.
said it was just he acted like that. They might as well not even be living anymore. Almost
and
is
the
kind of how.
thing about it is, the majority of those people are savants, and they're writing code for everything that you see.
I had one in my class. Her savantness, or however you would say that, was over animals in the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
The phylum, the gestation periods, the life expectancies, the Latin names, like everything about the animal kingdom.
That's not unusual. I had to learn all that crap in college.
Well, I didn't, and she was 12. I mean, it was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. And unfortunately, I look back at it now. I mean, she enjoyed talking about it, but a lot of us would be like, okay, tigers or like frogs or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it was pretty amazing actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
So obviously we've got, I think RFK's backtracked a little bit on his vaccine concerns. He talked about them a lot before he got put into the position that he has as HHS secretary. Dr. Roy, before we came on, thought maybe he is, potentially preparing to have lawsuits thrown at him. So like getting all your ducks in a row, and making sure that you have a solid argument prior to.
Yeah, I suspect that the contracts that the manufacturers of all those things are with the government has, things in it that says if the government decides to stop, then you're going to pay $55 billion to the manufacturers. So I think they've got poison pens in the contracts, and that's why it's so hard for him to get around that. He needs to bring in some off suits. Bring in Mike Ross to figure out.
Well, what I don't understand, and I understand vaccine makers got basically blanket immunity and protections with the Vaccine Act. And I guess they wrote in a backdoor maybe that if for whatever reason your mind is changed, then you're going to pay us X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if there's something wrong with them, if they're
so harmful,
they are harming people, I'm not saying they all are. I'm not saying what percentage are, but if they are, they should want to take those things off. And why should we, the taxpayers, pay for that? That's what I don't.
That's right.
I don't understand.
They pull stuff off sale for like 2 deaths, and they get 2 deaths, and they say, "Oh, we're taking it off."
They used to.
They used to. Now they've got all kinds of deaths from or deformities from the vaccines for COVID, and they haven't done anything about it. They got 38,000 that have been, written out in the.
That's on VAERS, and that's
VAERS,
a very low number, right? They said it's probably times 10 that.
Yeah, that's what I would think, because to fill out, I've filled out a couple of VAERS forms, and it's like 4 or 5 pages of stuff that you have to put in there. And I didn't have the time to do that.
Well, so we're talking about vaccines, and we're talking about autism, and I'm having some conversations with Grok and other AI, trying to kind of see what is out there. Grok is very protective of, and basically calling aluminum or other adjuvants in the vaccines causing autism as conspiracy theory, and that there's not significant evidence. And I think
I'm 39-0 on conspiracy theories.
Well, so I mean, you haven't weighed in super heavily there on this one, and I'm not going to ask you to do that because I don't think it's really fair.
Well, I can talk to the aluminum thing, because there is a tiny amount of aluminum in vaccines, but there is a whole lot more in over-the-counter stuff that you drink for upset stomach.
Like Mylanta or that kind of thing? Like
Yeah, Mylanta.
Okay, so I mean,
I thought that was
those
magnesium, though.
Well, it's got magnesium in it, but it's also there are some that have aluminum in them. And we used to worry because these people were taking it to keep their potassiums down when they were on dialysis. And we were wondering what they were doing to their brain. And there were even some cases of people having dementia because of too much aluminum in their brain.
So who determined what the acceptable level? I've got several questions here.
Who determines?
Who determines what the
manufacturers
acceptable
do.
level of aluminum? But here's the thing: you'd mentioned we know there's aluminum in some products that you take, and
Yeah.
when you're an adult, that's fine. When you're 1 day old to 7 years old and you're getting things jammed into you, that's not probably quite as fine. I mean, I could maybe get aluminum toxicity in my brain right now and probably wouldn't develop autism, but it probably would harm me. I mean, there's
you
toxicity.
might develop dementia.
Something, yeah. I mean, there's side effects.
Yeah.
So I guess, again, we're weighing on the side of caution, and to me, caution means radical transparency is where we're at.
Yeah.
So I'm going to play a clip. I don't know if this one's going to perfectly sync up with what we're talking about.
Well, we're
we'll
going to get kicked off of YouTube anyway.
I didn't even get to publish it, the last one on YouTube. So.
But they just tell you.
They just said no.
Yeah.
Here we go.
This was in
What's
2021.
in the shot? First of all, the childhood wellness plan. Everybody, 72 mandated vaccines by the age of 18. They start injecting pregnant women. Second trimester. They give 99% of newborns hepatitis B vaccine. It contains biopersistent aluminum. It's the beginning of the problem. This is the scaffold that's been going on and on and on. In 1986, Congress gave Big Pharma carte blanche. Put in whatever you want. You have absolutely no liability. And in that year, the vaccine schedule tripled. I fell into grace, I call it, when I testified against vaccine mandates in our legislature. Maine had a 95% voluntary vaccination rate. People actually believed in them. And they passed it anyway. So now, I don't have to tell you the rest of the story, but that's 72. And take a look at how many that is. Babies are getting 7 shots at the same time. You baby boomers out there, vaccines are safe and effective. Don't you remember polio and all of that stuff? Well, guess what? You had
Measles.
maybe 4. These kids have 72. That means that the people who first started with the 72 shots, and now that doesn't count flu or Gardasil or shingles or pneumonia or all the stuff that they're doing, those people are now 35 years old. They've already entered the zombie apocalypse. Next slide. Okay. So this shot is experimental, and it did not get FDA approval. That was a complete fraud. Okay? So whatever is out there is still under an EUA, Emergency Use Authorization. Next slide. We're going to go fast here. The synthetic mRNA is a program that they put into your body. It's not like anything that's ever seen. Next slide. Okay, and it instructs your cells to produce the spike protein. Next slide. The spike protein in itself creates the disease. Next. Okay, so it also contains fetal cell lines, kidney cells, retinal cells, lung cells. These are immortal, meaning that they are cancerous. And Vandersteel just told me that kidney cell is now, it's a flavor additive in all kinds of foods. It's shocking. Yeah. Check that out. And once Clay talked about that, Wikipedia changed their story. Nice. Okay, next slide. Okay, so it's unknown, the health implications of injecting fetal DNA from 1970 into your body. We don't know. And next slide. Okay.
There we go. Got anything to riff on that, Doc?
Who was that?
Dr.
What's her name?
Dr. Kristen Northup. Northup. I think she was
She
with.
hasn't fallen out of a hotel window yet.
I know. Well, she was with Kennedy. I think they were in the Children's Health Defense Fund or whatever together, and for a while until RFK took an exit of that prior to his run. Anyway, so part of that is something that we've already talked about in pretty significant ways. But the reason why I wanted to bring it to light is you're a doctor, you're not a pediatrician. Okay,
No.
So I'm not gonna.
Well,
I'm not,
all pediatricians are doctors,
right?
But not all doctors are pediatricians.
Right. Truth, facts. You haven't treated kids under a certain age.
Well, I wasn't trained to do that, but I did do that when I was doing urgent care in the military. I'd see them from, like 10 days old until they were, 18.
Mm-hmm.
But the only ones that I saw in my office were 12 and older.
Okay. So I'm going to throw you in the role of a pediatrician.
Yeah.
And act like I'm a new or wannabe parent, and meaning we just had a baby or we're getting ready to have a baby.
Yeah.
We're kind of we're like white coded as parents and new parents or wannabe parents to just, this is a really good pediatrician. They'll take care of them. They'll do all the things. Trust us. Blah 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 blah. Right. And that's what we did. And we loved our pediatrician for our two boys was my pediatrician when I was a kid. I loved the man, great respect for him. I didn't get 72 shots. I don't know exactly how many both my boys got, unfortunately. And I think Travis had a similar kind of story. I guess what I want, well, if RFK is promising radical transparency in food, why again? Same statement should apply to vaccines. There should be an immediate study launched.
I agree.
We should fund it.
Yeah.
And if Travis was going in for the first time, if I was going in for the first time, what should we ask for? Proof of what vaccines are going in, what ingredients are in those, what studies are proving.
You'll get thrown out.
That's exactly what I wanted.
You'll get thrown out.
And what does that mean?
It simply means that the pediatricians have been brainwashed to think of only one thing, is to giving the kids all these vaccinations. And, one person said, oh, it doesn't cause autism. But, it really kind of does.
Well, we just don't know. We don't know. And Dr. Roy, RFK is kind of a little bit all over the place right now on this, and he's kind of taking his foot off the throttle as it pertains to vaccines. But again, until you can rule them completely safe, we have to assume that they're not necessarily safe. If you can't show me proof, kind of like the COVID vaccine, they said from the beginning, safe and effective. If you, don't get it,
it was neither.
It was neither, but that's not what they told us. We got
no, they
labeled
told
and
us,
mocked.
Yeah, they did. I got to the point where I wouldn't mention it because I'd seen too much.
Well, I've got another clip here, and I'm trying to. Well, I've got a couple different ones here.
I take this. Here's a 38-year-old man. Very good health, and he takes the shot, and 5 or 6 days later, his wife awakens with him having a grand mal seizure in bed. And they take him to the hospital, and they do all the tests, and they can't find any reason why he would have seizures. And they said, nope, you're okay, you can go home. But he continued having seizures, so they had to put him on medicine to control his seizures. He was still able to work, but he's got this huge Gordian knot hanging over his head. Why am I having seizures?
So kind of on the same lines, after we had our last podcast, I spoke to my father-in-law. And I asked him, I said, so my My mother-in-law passed away August. It'll be 2 years in August. And she was fine. And then all of a sudden she had, she went in, I can't remember what she went in for, but she had stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about it before that. It was immediately stage 4, and she survived maybe 3 more months after that.
Yeah. Let me tell you something about pancreatic cancer. It is one of the nastiest cancers that's out there. And the thing about it is your pancreas is way deep in your abdomen, and you can grow a cancer there pretty quick, because it doesn't cause much of a problem until it gets to the size of a baseball and starts metastasizing, and you've got, pancreas in your liver, you got pancreas in your intestines, and all these other things. So it was, I had a very good friend who had pancreatic cancer. He was a chief master sergeant in the Air Force, and after that he became the civil service, and I worked with him for 3 solid years. And then like 2 years later, somebody sent me a letter and said, did you know that the chief died? He died in 6 weeks after they found it. And it's not uncommon at all to find stage 4 pancreatic cancer at that point, because it takes a lot of time.
Well, you're taking the wind out of my sails here, because the point was she got the first 2 COVID sticks. So,
yeah. Well, but the 2 most common types of pancreatic cancer, they start in the tail of the pancreas. Your pancreas is right here. If anybody ever says point to your pancreas, go like this, and it's way at the back. It's up against your spine, and it's got a head that's attached to your liver, or to the
bile duct,
bile ducts that are coming out of the liver, and then it's got a tail that goes over the left side, and it's attached to your spleen. If you get pancreatic cancer in the tail of the cancer, you're never going to know it until it's stage 4. Pancreatic cancer in the head of it, though, the guy all of a sudden becomes jaundiced, and he doesn't drink alcohol and everything else. What is that?
It's an airplane.
They're coming in for an attack.
We live near the airport, so you get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My uncle became jaundiced that's how we found out he had bile duct cancer. His bile duct was where.
And I had one guy that he was in Florida on vacation, and all of a sudden it became jaundiced, and they took him down there, and they diagnosed pancreatic cancer, head of the pancreas. They sent him back to Evansville, and he shows up in my office as a new patient, and they had stented the pancreatic duct so that it would not be blocked off, because that could cause the pancreas to start eating itself. And his jaundice went away because they put the stents in down there. But I had a pathologic thing with all the stuff they sent with him that says he's got pancreatic cancer. And I sat him down and I said, look, you got 2 choices, and neither one of them are good. One of them is to get all your affairs in order and have as much good time with your family as you can, because you're probably going to die before Christmas. I said, the other one is to have chemotherapy, none of which works, and you're probably going to die before Christmas. And he took the low road and didn't do anything, and I kept him going for actually beyond Christmas, but he died anyway.
Yeah, I'm wondering now, just with all the different things that we've talked about from a treatment perspective, different things you might have thrown at him now that we're seeing all these different experiments with.
Yeah,
but why not try something different?
That was in 2016. So
Dave's friends are in the background. Do you hear that?
Well, yeah,
I hear the honkies.
Dave's friends just do a flyby.
Anyway, my point was that my mother-in-law was completely healthy.
Yeah.
Was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. A year and a half after taking the first 2 sticks of COVID.
And here's the thing: people who have pancreas in the tail of their pancreas, it can grow to the size of a grapefruit, and not be causing any problems. And now the ones that are in the head, they're going to cause problems, and they're going to make you jaundiced, and they're going to shut off the enzymes that keep coming out of your pancreas, the ones that cut down the beef that you eat, and it turns around and it's still making enzymes, so it decides to make itself. The enzymes are chewing that up. So it's a terrible disease, and unfortunately there are no real good chemotherapies for it. There are some new ones that will make you live longer, but you're going to have problems.
Well, and I just want to add, I'm not a doctor. I interview doctors, but there are a lot of groups out on the internet. The Joe Tippin's Protocol on Facebook has a pretty amazing group, and it's a lot of anecdotal people basically coming on there saying, my wife, myself, my dad, whatever, has some kind of a cancer, and basically they're asking, what's the protocol, what's the treatment process, because these people have either gotten in that same diagnosis where they're kind of at the end of the road, chemo's not helped. Well, but this last-ditch effort with ivermectin and fenbendazole seems to be helping a lot of people. So it's not that there aren't treatments. It's not pharma approved.
It's more than ivermectin and fenbendazole. You're taking a lot of vitamin D. Mm-hmm. You're taking a lot of other things that go along with it, and you are getting chemotherapy. Mm-hmm. And one of my nurse practitioners that I oversee, she contacted me and asked about that, and I gave her the whole spiel, and she said, well, that's what he's got, and he's going to go by that instead of getting chemo. And
we'll look forward to hearing that.
Yeah, so I got another. I haven't heard anything back from her. I need to do
a follow up.
Need to.
Well, so let's kind of spin back around. These clips aren't kind of perfectly synced, but they're, I often wonder why certain politicians get canceled and or have, certain parties hating them one way or the other. Rand Paul's been kind of one of those characters who's been hated by both sides of the aisle, which makes me like him more.
Yeah.
I think he says things that aren't popular that, the funders of our government don't typically like, or the controllers of the government don't typically like. This particular clip, it has a lot of good stuff in it. It's fairly long.
Before you start, just let's make sure that it's Rand is a physician.
Yeah, Dr. Rand Paul. Yes.
Yeah, he is a physician, but he's an ophthalmologist. Mm-hmm. But he's certainly stepped out of that.
Sure.
And he's also won against the long-term recurring to keep your
license.
Not your license. Your forget about it. I can't think of it right now.
Okay,
but. Anyway, he's a leader with that, so he's way out of the normal doctors.
Yeah,
he's way farther.
Well,
out
and
I've
I've heard I've heard Dr. Jack Cruz talk about the eye doctors and the different. I mean, I've also met several doctors who say like they can see something's wrong with somebody just by looking at their eyes a lot of times. So I think there's some pathways.
Well, if they're jaundiced, that's an easy one.
That's pretty easy.
Yeah.
So let's listen. This one I think particularly he's talking about vaccine schedule with his own kids and what he decided to do. And then I got a kind of a clip to follow this up, just to knock home the point of what I want. We shouldn't be pressured into taking vaccines. We shouldn't be labeled or what we witnessed since 2020, 2021 is absolutely awful. And the fact that there are more and more people skeptical about vaccines is not those people's fault. It's a combination of the media, the cancel culture, and quite honestly, pharmaceutical companies not doing a very good job of giving us data that's proves otherwise.
They're just they're like, never mind the man behind the curtain.
That's right. All right, let's get into this.
You're telling my kid to take a hepatitis B vaccine when he's 1 day old. You get it through drug use and sexually transmitted. That's how you get hepatitis B. But you're telling me my kid has to take it at 1 day old. That's not science. And so every person with a bit of common sense, even people who don't resist vaccines, I vaccinated all my kids. I believe vaccines are one of the modern miracles beyond all pale. The Speckled Monster is a great book about the introduction of the smallpox vaccine in 1720 into our country. All miracles. But I'm not a one-size-fits-all. It's not all or nothing. I chose to wait on my hepatitis B vaccine, and we did it when they went to school. Does that make me an awful person? Does that make me an anti-vaxxer because I questioned the government dictate of whether I do it? And I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm only speaking for myself. But for goodness sakes, let's have an honest debate about these things. The COVID vaccine. If you ask me my opinion, there are reporters run up and down the aisle and they say, you still anti-vaccine? No, I'm pro-vaccine. But on the COVID vaccine, and on the COVID illness, there was a 1,000-fold or more difference between the elderly and children. If you don't acknowledge that, you're committing malpractice. You're showing your ignorance. If you say a 6-month-old must be mandated to get it, the science is not there. So all this blather about the science says this and the science says that, no, it doesn't. The science actually shows that no healthy child in America died from COVID. Look it up. No healthy child died from COVID. And so the thing is that it's 1,000-fold greater. So if you ask me my advice as a physician, if you were 65 or older or overweight and some other conditions, I would have said, hell yes, I'd take the COVID vaccine. The risks of the disease were real and much greater than the vaccine. But if you ask me, should my healthy 6-month-old get it? See, these are the nuances you're unwilling to talk about because there's such a belief in submission. Submit to the government. Do what you're told. There is no discussion. There ought to be a debate. You're not going to let him have the debate because you're just going to criticize and say, it is this, and admit to it, or we're not going to appoint you. But it's more complicated than that. And this is why people distrust government, because you're unwilling to have these conversations. And go home. Ask your Democrat young mothers, your Republican young mothers, if they're vaccinating their kid for hepatitis B, and they're like, well, do I have to do it on day one? It's this precious little baby. Is there science to say you shouldn't do it? Probably not, but it's my kid. It's like, there isn't clear-cut science saying not to. But on autism, there's no good science of anything to show what causes autism. We don't know. It's a profound disease. I know many moms here and dads who have kids with autism. I know them personally. I've met their kids. But the thing is they saw their kids developing completely normal, maybe speaking 100 words go to no words at about 15 months of age. Now, there isn't proof. There isn't proof that the vaccines cause it. That's true. There isn't proof that it causes it. But we don't know what causes it yet, so shouldn't we be at least open-minded? We take 72 vaccines. Could it be? I don't know. But we shouldn't just close the door and say we're no longer, because we believe so much in submission, we're not going to have an open mind to study these things. And so it's sort of this crazy notion. Schizophrenia, I would put in the same notion. You have a kid who's completely normal to 18 or 19, and their brain goes haywire. How does that happen? It's the most bizarre disease. Shouldn't we be open? Could it be our food? It might be vaccines, it might be our food, but autism's more common. I don't know about the schizophrenia statistics, but autism is more common. Shouldn't we want to be open-minded? Instead, we're so close-minded and we're so consensus-driven that the science says this. Well, science doesn't say anything. Science is a dispute, and 10 years from now, we could all be wrong. We were told in the beginning, 20 years ago, they did this enormous study, and they said, everybody over 50 should take an aspirin. I thought, well, that's a pretty good idea. It makes sense. But you know what? 20 years later, they measured it. And they found if you had no heart disease and you were taking aspirin, your chance of dying from a brain bleed or from a stomach bleed were greater than the risk of heart disease. If you have heart disease, they still say take an aspirin. If you don't, they've changed their mind 20 years later. But would you have all said I was crazy and I should no longer be in public discourse if I had said 20 years ago, I don't feel like taking an aspirin. I ride my bike all the time. I'm afraid I might hit my head. But that's what a country's about. It's what dissent is about. So just ask you to look at the larger picture and give the guy a break who says, I just want to follow the science where it leads without presupposition. I think really what we have up here is presupposition. You've already concluded. It's absolute that autism isn't caused by it. We don't know what causes autism, so we should be more humble in what we say. Sorry I didn't get to a question.
Kavaliuk has
Again,
slumped.
so I feel, first of all, that was a great time on the bench of talking in front of Congress and in front of all those families. But I mean, what he says is absolutely true. I don't care what letter he has after his name. I mean, science to me is changing every day. It's observation and science that is, here's my education clip for the day. If we as parents could teach our kids, if you ever hear someone say the science is settled, you should run from that person and never listen to them again.
Yeah.
They should just be scratched out as somebody, because science is never settled.
It changes every day.
It changes what is 100% working today may be 100% not working tomorrow. And that's just the way we evolve.
I've been in medicine for 51 years, and that's not counting the thank you very much. That's not counting the 8 years before I became an MD that I had to study all these things. And there was stuff that I was taught as absolute correct in college and in medical school that we've turned out it's not that way. I mean, there were diseases that were thought to be caused by environmental problems that in fact are genetic diseases. We have learned so much about the genetics of disease, and the fact that that's unfortunate for everybody, because you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. They're there. And if your dad had lung cancer and your mom had lung cancer, the odds of you having lung cancer are about 3 times higher than the average person. And that's simply because you've been around what they're doing. And not every case of lung cancer is caused by smoking. At least 1/3 is in people who have never smoked. And you got to figure, well, what's going on here? I thought you said if I didn't smoke, I wouldn't have lung cancer. Well, guess what, buddy? You got lung cancer. You got one particular kind, and that's adeno lung cancer.
Here's another. It's not even a rabbit hole, and I don't think we need to go too deep into it.
Ooh.
I believe every person that is diagnosed with anything and or every person at death should be tested, should have certain things tested. Let's say vitamin D level.
Yeah.
And we should get some kind of baseline for percentage of death of people with normal vitamin D levels and other levels. Vitamin D is just one of the key ones.
I think we already know about vitamin D, that if your vitamin D is low, then you are likely to have a whole lot more things go wrong with you. Mm-hmm. And
I just want more data. I want these things to show it.
Yeah.
That way it's just it's science. It's as close to science as we can get.
Well, I think there are some things that show that pretty well, and they're coming from outside the United States, because Sweden has one of the most progressive medical departments, and they look at everything. If you if you are a Swedish citizen, then they know everything about you, and they know if you see a doctor, this is what happened. If you are put in the hospital, this is what happened, and they keep records. And a lot of things came out of the low vitamin D, because obviously the Swedish people don't get a whole lot of sunshine up there,
right?
Particularly. And there's a lot of people who are vitamin D deficient. I saw that when I opened my practice here. I used to test for vitamin D on everybody who came through the door as a new patient until I found out that at least 2/3 of them were very low in vitamin D and needed supplemental vitamin D.
Well, I just feel like we're talking. You and I talk about ongoing public health crisis and the different things the government should make very, very affordable for people. And again, if we're trying to lower the cost of overall burden of financial burden on our country based on Medicare, Medicaid spending, and our sickness, there should be free testing for vitamin D. I mean, however expensive it might be now, we should make it cheaper.
It's relatively more expensive than, for example, getting a blood count.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's like a blood count is $7 and a vitamin D is like $40.
Okay, whoop-de-doo, $40. Like if you could spend $40 and say, my vitamin D levels are definitely low. This gives me a much greater risk of all these different things. Here's some proof of it. These are post-morbid.
Here's some vitamin D pills.
Yeah. Well,
take those.
First of all, just get out into the sunshine in the morning.
Yeah.
Do that first. Let's try the natural way. The sun is up in the sky for a reason, and everything is living because of it. So
I would do that with the people who are in the middle between having enough vitamin D and being vitamin D deficient, the ones who are low in there. I would do that with the sun. But if you got somebody that comes in with a vitamin D level of 4, I'm going to put them on vitamin D like right away.
Yeah. And then, my hack would be, okay, I'll take it straight away, but I'm going to also do the thing and then wean myself off the pills if possible.
Well, and the unfortunate thing was that not many, but a significant number of the patients who came in with extremely low vitamin D levels were African Americans. Mm-hmm. And, you say, what's that? Well, they just don't get out in the sun anymore. We were an agrarian nation until about 1940, and everybody got out in the sun because you had to help with the harvest and all this other stuff. Now, within air conditioning and watching television and putting on the 75 whatever it is to prevent you from getting a sunburn, there's a tremendous amount of vitamin D deficiency.
There was a really interesting, I don't know that it was a study or it was a doctor that I definitely follow a lot, but basically he said the rate of COVID in African people living in America was super high, was above average for but people in Africa not so much, like they hardly had COVID at all.
And that's because they're all taking ivermectin.
And they're in the sun, I think, believe a lot more. They're probably not sitting around on their televisions and all that.
Yeah, well, they don't have much televisions there. And if they do, all they do is tell you what a great place Kenya is.
Yeah.
Well, don't pigeonhole too much because, a lot of people can work from home now, legitimately work from home. I don't mean like, selling things out of your house, but I mean, like for myself, I work from home every day.
Sure.
Okay. So what I can tell you is
get your ass out in the sun.
Like
I do.
Like I put a desk outside. That's one of the
a desk outside.
Sit outside. Sit out. People. I watched a podcast today that all three of the guests were sitting outside.
I mean, you can, but it'd be a pain in the ass, and like if it ever started to rain or anything, like I have windows.
If it was 20 degrees.
Well, if you
the windows don't help.
If you have
much.
windows and you can open the windows, I would say that there's some help in that.
Because the windows are set to.
They block out the good. They block out the good UV. Unfortunately,
good.
I get out every morning and drop my kid off. I think you were behind me the other day.
Yeah.
And,
even in the cold, I roll down my window and I have my face in the sun as much as possible.
Yeah. I walk my dog most mornings, and we get plenty of sunshine.
Well, all I was trying to say really is you guys were like, well, they've got TV, they're lazy, whatever. You can also have other reasons for being at home.
They're just on a screen a lot. How about that? That doesn't have anything.
I'm just saying I didn't want you to RFK yourself on that one and say too much because you
got a little touchy there.
Yeah,
I work on the screen too. I'm guilty I'm as guilty as the next guy, honestly, especially honestly, over the last 20 years. I mean, I have it on a business that I build websites, and I'm in front of a screen. I didn't go outside to do that. What I'm saying is I was wrong to do that over the years, and I'm trying to change my behavior because I think it's, first of all, it's a good example for my kids. Second of all, I think it can help me in the long term health wise. The other thing that Dr. Roy hit on is like we can build our houses in a different way. We don't have to have the low E glass that blocks out those things. Is it going to make your house a little less energy efficient? Probably so. Yeah. So you got to weigh the things, right? It might cost you a little more, but what are we weighing out here? We're weighing out health versus a little bit more cost.
Yeah.
So anyway, I
wasn't saying that you're a quack for saying I need a son. I was just saying I also
you do
am in my home a
You
lot
call me
because
a quack, and you're going to need stitches.
well, you do. Well, you've got a quack right behind you. So.
Yeah.
no, that's a honk.
Dave.
That's a honker.
Oh, that's a honky.
He's not a
That's true.
quacker. He's not a quacker.
But anyway, I was just trying to just say that it's not always just television or laziness. There are other reasons for people to. It might be handicapped, might not be able to really get out or work from home.
but,
You can get out, yes, but I'm just saying.
People at nursing homes, they wheel them out into the sunshine.
They don't whenever they say that they're not allowed to come out of their rooms and they die of loneliness.
They should.
Yeah.
They should.
That's what happened during COVID to my grandmother.
I got a clip that would fit into this perfectly. I'm gonna try to find it. I got this clip. So let me hang on. Circle back around to.
Once again, I'm not saying no sunlight. I'm just saying there's other reasons that sometimes people are homebound.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and there's nothing wrong with taking a vitamin D supplement.
There you go. I do. I take a multivitamin with extra. With some extra stuff. I said, don't argue with me, old man.
Okay.
You need an extra 5,000.
He didn't call me a quack.
Yeah,
I already.
We're not done. We're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to play this one. Then I'm going to find the clip. I think that will tie into what you just said there.
Problem. It is the unvaccinated who are the problem, period, end of story.
Oh my God.
The only people that you can blame, this isn't shaming, this is the truth. Maybe they should be shamed, are the unvaccinated.
It's time to start blaming the unvaccinated folks, not the regular folks.
Anyone you came into contact with will blame you, as will the rest of us who have done the right thing by getting vaccinated.
Because frankly, we know that we can't trust the unvaccinated.
I think it's time to get our moral house in order, Anderson. It's the unvaccinated who are the threat.
All of us vaccinated folks are going to start wearing masks to protect the unvaccinated folks. It's called a Christian value.
You're basically punishing the vaccinated for the sins of the unvaccinated.
People are not behaving honorably. The unvaccinated are basically saying, well, it's open season for me. I can do whatever I want as well.
The unvaccinated are basically beating their breasts, running around the country saying, we don't care, we're living free, and so forth.
We've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin.
The unvaccinated, a group that includes children and people acting like children. And the rest of us are starting to get pissed off.
The vaccinated feel the unvaccinated are making me upset or angry.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
So I only wanted to share that, I don't like the Democrats did this. I know a lot of Republicans that are guilty of shaming. I mean, people that aligned on most other things, COVID and vaccines and masking and distancing, split people down the middle. I don't want to say down the middle, but it wasn't a Democrat versus Republican thing. It just so happens that most of these media people who I don't trust anymore, I don't understand why they're still on television, did say these things and they did get away with it. They shamed people. And this is why I feel it's important for me and Doc and Travis to come back to the table every time and fight this nonsense. I mean, first of all, don't listen to these damn people ever again. If they're willing to shame you, basically corner you to force you to do something, which now it turns out is potentially harming you, harming your kids, harming your older family members. Dr. Travis has some terrible stories of his grandparents being isolated and not being able to visit upon their deathbed. And I think I have a clip somewhere. I wasn't able to find it during that show, but during that clip. But there's some very significant number of people that basically were told to go inside and isolate whenever getting outside in the sunlight would have helped them tremendously.
And there were people saying that back then, if you recall. There were
I
a
do
lot
recall,
of people.
but they got silenced. They got censored.
So many people got silenced.
They got
They
censored.
were right.
They were right. As it turns out, they were right. So the moral of this is, like, if you're watching this program, one of the things we're paying close attention to are whenever we have these signals come up and the media starts hitting their gong bells, trying to cancel people, trying to tell us why you shouldn't do this or that. I mean, we have to be able to sort through that noise to get to the actual thing that's happening, and do our best as fast as we can to prevent it. Doesn't mean we're going to get it right every time. It doesn't mean that we're going to, not be offensive from time to time. But one thing I will promise anybody watching this and you guys is I'm paying attention to this stuff, because we need to be the early bell ringers to there's a problem, and we can't listen to the noise. We have to really pay attention to what we're trying to do here. So
we've said it many times, but the best thing that happened during COVID is it opened a lot of eyes.
Yeah,
it did indeed.
That's for sure.
It did indeed. What are you searching for over there, Doc?
I was doctoring.
He's
telehealthing from the podcast.
I had a patient who needed a prescription sent, so I was taking care of that right then, then and there.
Travis shared another clip with me, and let's get off the vaccines for just a second. I'll circle back around to him. A lot of people don't even consider Trump to be human, and they they call him every name in the book and everything. And I'm critical of him oftentimes. I think his second term, he has proven himself to be a much more authentic person. I think potentially getting shot at might do that to a person. Mm-hmm. The fact that he's able to stand up and in that line and come back and do what he's doing is pretty brave. But this is a side of him that most people, I know most media will not show you. And if you're not, if you're just listening to this podcast, I know a good percentage of you do. Basically, it's Trump sitting at a table with a bunch of kids at Easter. And he's just interacting with him. So if you want to watch the video, you can turn it on right now, and it's going to come on.
Okay.
You're the best.
Chad.
I will. Come on. Well, you did a good job. Man, I'll do it. I'll sign all of them. You're the best. I got the tree.
What do?
I think you have a moth in your drinking glass.
Oh, I do. No, it's just a.
Oh, okay. It looks like a moth.
You're trying to save me from drinking a moth.
It was.
Dr. Roy saw this from across the room, and it's just Notre Dame used to be right there, and it peeled off.
Oh.
Well, anyway, but he was being pretty awesome with those kids. Like, I remember saying that to you. He was coloring with them. He was signing the pages they were coloring, and he was authentic, and he wasn't sniffing them.
Yeah, that's right. He wasn't.
Well, and the kids seemed to be enjoying being around him.
Yeah.
And that
they used to burst into tears when President Biden would be near him.
Pretty much anybody who's ever gets to be around him talk about how he's actually pretty pleasant to be around. There was a guy, a very blue. You were starting to talk about last week.
Bill Maher.
Yeah, who sat down with him and was pleasantly surprised by his whole demeanor and caring, really. But anyway.
Well, you queued that up kind of nicely, and this is not really related to the conversation we're having, but I got a clip from Bill here. And again, to any of my friends on the left that are watching this, I know there are a lot of you who do watch and listen. We're friends for a reason. I don't hate on Democrats because they're Democrats. I don't love on Republicans because they're Republicans. I try to call things as I see them, and I try to pull politics out of it. But this is a clip, basically, who Bill Maher is known to be a fairly significant left-wing guy over the years, and he's recently went to visit Trump. I don't think this is related to that, but this is just a warning, kind of in line with what we're hearing. That clip that we showed that had basically the folks shaming people for whatever, and this is something I think was really kind of a cool insight that he brought to the table.
Move too far left, and when you do, you wind up pushing the people in the middle to the right. At its worst, Canada is what American voters think happens when there's no one putting a check on extreme wokeness. They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. Sweden opened its borders to over 1.5 million immigrants since 2010, and now 20% of its citizens are foreign-born, and its education system is tanking, and it has Europe's highest rate of gangland killings. To which liberals say blaming immigrants for the rising crime rate is racist. Yeah, but is it true? Of course it's true. It's not a coincidence the quality of life went down after the Somali gangs started a drug turf war using hand grenades. Calling it racist doesn't solve the problem.
It's interesting because here he is, he's giving a concession, and this is what a good liberal does. What a true liberal would do is analyze each issue honestly, and that actually is what he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've kind of evolved in and out of what I called myself. I was a Republican at one point, and they made me mad, so I kind of moved out of that. I consider myself more of a classic liberal in a sense that I just want to question things, and I want closest to truth to be there. I want to give people the benefit of the doubt, but if you're proven to be wrong or you're proven to lie over time, then you don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore. You just need to be out. So I think that's where our media is really failing.
That's why I call myself a conservative instead of a Republican.
We need brake pedals. I mean, we need brake pedals.
I liked his when we're not going off a cliff.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That is pretty good.
Rolling backwards.
This was Travis, I don't know if you want to pull my screen up.
Sure.
This was we're a little bit in the humor section. The Babylon Bee, the LGBT acronym has changed.
MS-13.
LGBTQ MS-13. So that's kind of obviously making fun of the immigration, or the people in the Democratic Party that are going to El Salvador to try to bring back people that are from El Salvador that are here illegally, and gangbangers and MS-13 people.
I wouldn't go to El Salvador because Bukele doesn't put up with any crap. He'll throw you in the prison.
Yeah. Well, I would go because I don't really have anything to hide. And that's where Dr. Jack is. I'd like to go over there and interview.
Well, Dr. Jack is there because he's in Bukele's shoe in his pocket.
Well, he's taken his old economy to Bitcoin.
Yeah,
it's funny you say that because right before we got on, there was a woman that I used to work with at a financial institution who was complaining that a guy she's trying to help get a business loan was going to be able to fulfill his dream and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, the loan couldn't close because of his citizenship status. He's an asylum seeker. So I haven't said anything to her, but I asked her. She didn't immediately say what it was. It just said because of his status, and I said, "What status is he?" And then she messaged me. She said, "I'm not going to put it out there what his status is, but he's an asylum seeker, excuse me." And I really want to be. Well, if he's not a citizen, how's he? Why would they give him money?
Right.
That's right.
Anyway, I don't know. It's just, and there's a lot of people out there that I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I mean, they say they kind of parrot a lot of people just parrot what they hear on the media.
Yeah.
And if Trump said it's good, they're going to say it's bad. There's other people that there are some, excuse me, some overlapping things that do have impact on people around them that they know and they care about. And Trump has said there are going to be some instances where it's not going to be comfortable and it's not going to be perfect for everyone.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're either a nation of laws or we're not. And if you look at the data, and there's plenty of memes, I didn't bring one today, but there's plenty of memes that showed each one of the last 6 presidents that we've had, the number of people that they booted out of the country because of their status. Obama did it at a very high rate. He was known as something like the deporter in chief.
Yeah.
And like people said, well, there needs to be due process. Well, if they come into the country illegally, they shouldn't.
They've already broken the law.
They shouldn't get due process to get out. They didn't do due process to get in. If they went through, filing for what's the thing you file for? Asylum. If they're asylum seekers and they got in the country and they're being monitored, I can see. Okay, well, I'm in the record here. I'm filed. Then you don't get booted out. But if you just came across illegally, I'm sorry. You're illegal. But anyway, Obama, apparently something to the effect of 70% of the people he removed from the country didn't have any kind of process.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't hear anybody on the left really talking about it.
No.
So,
no.
Anyway, so just because we brought up MS-13, I figured this is a pretty good one. Maybe. Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. I'll start over. Each one of these platforms has a mute button, and it's always in a different area.
For releasing that information that you cited up there regarding the ICE arrests over the last couple of days. And I have them right here, but what I might ask is, why not release the same information for those who were deported to El Salvador?
Well, first of all, the information was released by the Department of Homeland Security. The individuals on the flights to El Salvador are foreign terrorists, and those are counterterrorism operations. They are much different than the arrests and final order of removals that you see on a day-to-day basis that law enforcement agents are conducting around the country.
That information was not, to that detail, was not released by DHS, though.
I just told you the reason. It was a counterterrorism operation, a deportation of foreign terrorists, not illegal criminals who have been convicted of heinous crimes living in our American communities. It's two different things. Foreign terrorist, illegal immigrant criminal, two different things, two different definitions. You should look them up. Christian.
The eyes of the MMA world are... Woo! That's my clapping.
Yeah. She holds
I
no
like
prisoner.
her.
She is just,
I like her a lot.
She's fiery. I like it. You got anything to say on that, Doc?
Nope, I don't. I'm all for it.
Well, I mean, I just feel like we need to have some debate or conversation over it. But 10 million people came in illegally in 4 years. There's no way you can get 10 million people out through due process.
No.
First of all, we don't have a court system to handle that. I think we're probably still behind from COVID lockdowns.
Well, the fact is that they broke a law to come here illegally, and we are taking them and putting them out, and they can go away. And if they try to come back, we're going to chop their arm off.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of like if I killed somebody, but then I also ran a red light, and I'm complaining that they didn't give me due process for the red light or something. Like I don't like it. You did the first thing wrong. Get out. If you want due process, go to your country and have the due process there, I guess.
Yeah. So we haven't listened to any clips from Dr. Jack in a while. I think this is a little bit of a flip back to a different topic, but it's just going to be one of those days. So I've got several clips from him here in no particular order. This one's a little shorter. It's about a minute, a little over a minute, and I'll get it queued up here. Usually you guys are just very chatty, and I have the opportunity to pull things up.
Us? Yeah.
I have an opportunity to pull things up, and now you're just mum's the word on me. What's going on with you guys?
I took my shots.
Did you see my DEI analogy? Did I send you that?
Yeah, I think I got it in here.
If you had one flat tire, DEI is like flattening all the other tires so that everybody's equal, or so that every tire is equal.
That's right.
That's perfect.
Yeah. All right, let me just, hopefully I got this thing. All the right bells and whistles turned on here.
Or if your dog dies, then you go out and kill everybody else's dogs to make it even.
That's a little further than I was going to go.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
Well, I like my flat tire now.
You know how far right I am.
You honky. I'm not going to call you a quack, but I'll call you honky. Honk. Honk.
Well, I am a honky because I get called that all the time when I go out in public.
Looking at how sunlight increases longevity and reduces aging in everything from bees to flies to whatever. And he's finally got it up to the point that he's doing it on humans. And lo and behold, what you find that sunlight has a radical effect or a huge effect, even small amounts. Bear in mind, to give you a perspective on Glenn's work, sunlight can put up to 30 megajoules into the body every day. Glenn is using 28 kilojoules and doing it for 15 minutes and seeing a biological change in glucose levels, but more importantly, an increase in CO2 levels. And he's also showing that it extends on out. Now we're starting to look at other things like eye response and color contrast, and he's finding all these other effects of sunlight. So unfortunately, I don't know why, but sunlight is always the last on the list. They talk about food, they talk about, so maybe Jack can answer to that from the standpoint of, it's just really frustrating that we focus on everything but sunlight in defining health.
Yeah,
so sunlight's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's why all these conversations we had, and Travis kind of fought back on me a little bit, and it wasn't about trying to shame or make any fun. No, I mean, no, it's a radical idea, and when someone says something, it's easy to get defensive. You're a little defensive,
not about the sunlight, but about you pigeonholing everybody that doesn't get sunlight into being lazy or watching TV or something. That's all that you guys were saying. So
I didn't say lazy.
Not
you
all
were
of them.
insinuating lazy.
That's not what I meant. We spend a tremendous amount of time indoors. Our kids,
yes, absolutely.
Our kids
and I agree that sun's good for you, and I wasn't pushing back on the sunlight thing at all. I was pushing back on saying, well, they sit inside and they watch all TV too damn much. They just inside too much. Well, get off my lawn, you mother.
Drink Mountain Dew.
There is some of that.
There is, but I'm just saying it's not all.
But then our kids are put into buildings that have LEDs and fluorescent lights, and they're trapped indoors all day. And when I grew up, and probably I'm sure when you grew up, when we went to school, you spent at least an hour outside.
Oh yeah,
at least. So I feel like at very least,
cold days,
if we could just get some radical considerations. I mean, one of my goals in starting the other podcast channel that I want to do about education is going to be pushing things like changing out our light in schools, or getting different lights other than LEDs, and opening windows, and getting more recess. I mean, we've made so much of an issue of trying to get the most out of our education and make our kids as smart as they possibly can be, and we're still failing. And our kids are sitting in school and they're not eating good food at school lunch. And
now ours are. Ours are eating pretty good.
It's
food.
getting a little better.
Yeah,
but it still could. There's a lot of
get better.
A lot of carbohydrates, a lot of stuff that's processed, but it's getting better, and I think it's going to continue to get better. And that's I'm optimistic on that. No one talks about light. No one talks about the sedentary stuff. Our school's a little different.
I will say they've got a lot of glass in that school. There's a lot of windows.
And there's a lot. I've asked my youngest son. A lot of the teachers don't put the overhead lights on. They'll have a lamp or whatever, and they have the blinds open. I think that's fantastic. And I didn't talk to them individually or whatever. So I think there's a lot of teachers that, I think if you just sit under, if I go into a restaurant or whatever, and my wife and I go out to lunch a lot, if I sit in a booth that has a bright LED light, it literally, I become so sensitive because of my blue light blockers, it'll start hurting my head really rapidly.
I can just feel a difference if I have my curtains closed, or if I just let some sunlight in, like just that light. I mean, I can feel a physical difference, definitely.
100%. So, I mean, the moral of the story here is,
Doc, you kind of look like Stan Lee right now. He was just sitting there with his glasses and nodding at me. I kind of was like, there's Mr. Lee. No.
Yeah.
All right, anyway, I got another clip to queue up here. It might take me just a second.
But yeah, if you're trying to talk me into doing another one, and you try to throw education in there, and it's going to affect my kid, and then you're going to make me have to try to find another 3 hours every week to do this, aren't you?
What are you talking about?
Doing an education podcast.
I want you to help me set it up.
You were plugging me to do it or something.
Well, I am, because it's both.
I'm very adamant about it. I would totally do it. I just got to find the time.
Well, I mean, finding the time, finding the funding, that's all what this is. And this is a good time to plug. We've started sending some money Doc's way to pay for some of the equipment. But I do have a couple people that are sending, there's a couple of very generous people that are giving some funds to the podcast every month.
Oh, good.
I want to say thank you to those. It's still not enough to really do what I know needs to get done. We need, and I don't want to be necessarily a person sitting behind the screen all the time. I'd like to be where Travis is for some programs, and just be back there doing research or working alongside of Travis, and queuing things up just to make it more production, right? Because it's me sitting here talking, trying to queue things up at the same time. That's not how any production stuff is really done. I mean, it's a little tricky, but thank you to anyone that's done that. And the reason we do it is because we are trying to bring truth to light. And Dr. Jack is the doctor of light. So let's listen to a little more here.
That somebody gives him Roland Van Wyck's book, and then he looks at it and goes, okay, now I see another side to this light story, that, believe it or not, what he just built and gave to people, actually he's going to be able to really change. Why? Because the full spectrum bulbs that he delivers, he's actually going to see that there's UPEs change, and it's going to change in people, like he said, autism, diabetics. Like, he's going to go, there is a new signature when you use my bulbs versus GE, or my bulbs and Siemens. Guess what? That That is where the needle is going to move. Why? Because then what are you effectively doing? You're cutting out the really bad, nefarious guys. The guys that are against Scott, me, and you, Alexis, those are the guys that are right next to you in New Jersey. Those guys.
Yeah.
Okay?
No, I do totally agree with you, Jack, that there are people that are highly motivated to not change the status quo with what's going on with lighting, and it's difficult to get around them. You know, I was asked to write a paper with Professor Ritter by the IES, the Illumination Society, and I wrote the paper, submitted the paper, and they tanked it. They basically refused to publish it.
Sure.
You know, because it does come to the heart of you can't add in the rest of the spectrum without using more energy, and they didn't want to do that.
Right.
And
Because that breaks the political narrative that's out there. And that's, listen, Scott, the thing that you just said there.
I'm going to come back to this clip,
Yeah.
but that's a really kind of a pointed thing that what we're fighting against with you've got, and it seems so nefarious to me, and I know my brain goes to conspiracy pretty quick, but it's like you got the whole green movement where we have to have the smallest amount of energy being burned, and it's all about the environment, it's all about this, that, or the other, and yet you've got harmful lighting and different scenarios that are really harming humanity. And we have to have there still has to be a scientific discussion. You can't just go for what's cheapest or what we say is best for the environment, even though I don't necessarily agree that LEDs and fluorescents are better for the environment than the old incandescents. Apparently this guy, Scott Zimmerman, he is actually trying to manufacture lights to be much more conducive to health.
I think it's a full spectrum. And,
yeah, full spectrum. So, and I think he's using some LED technology. So it's not nearly as energy draining as the old incandescents that are, pulling a lot more wattage and energy. So.
Well, us here in the footprint of Centerpoint, I mean, we got to try to keep it to a reasonable volume.
I don't want to turn on the power at all ever. Power me back up.
You know this, but I'm going to say it to you. That is exactly the same reason that OTS papers weren't accepted by the paradigm in the 60s. So that's the reason I pushed back on you in the first hour where I said, Scott, trust me, you need to know the history of what's happened behind you, because you really are picking up where OT got destroyed. And do I want to see you succeed? Absolutely. But I want you eyes wide open to know who you're going against, because I got news here. They're stronger today than they were in 1966, than they were in 1977.
Yeah, but haven't you made progress with El Salvador and the incandescents? I mean, didn't you get that back in?
I made a market that's ready for you. I got news here. I got a president right now that would buy all your fucking light bulbs overnight.
Pardon the French.
He would convince you to come down here and build them. So I'm going to tell you that there's no question that that is there. But the point that I'm trying to make to you, because I'm a stickler about this, and I think people who follow me and listen to my podcast, I'm a historian. I know this history in and out around this science. And I'm going to tell you that you need to understand who's really behind this. Big Pharma is just the front for the DOD and DARPA. And they're the ones that really want to keep light the way it is. I can tell you, when I sat down with Bukele almost 3.5 years ago, I showed him FBI data that showed that crime was worse since we've gone to LED bulbs. And when he saw that, his political affiliations.
That's a bit
and
of
how
a
he is
stretch,
about
but
MS-13, right? You know that Trump is trying to do the same thing. Don't you find it's kind of fucking weird that
Pardon me,
Trump
Obama.
wouldn't be behind getting rid of Biden and Obama's light bulb standards? Well, I'm going to tell you the reason why, my friend. Because Trump doesn't understand what you and I are talking about right now. He has no earthly idea, but guess who does? Bukele. That's part of the reason why Bukele said, I need these bulbs. And I'll tell you a follow-up, and this is really for your benefit, not the audience. When his brother got married 3 years ago at the presidential palace on Lake Coatepeca, the leader of a country And you know what he told him? This is important, Scott. He goes, I know this isn't good enough. He goes, but this is the best that I could do. Why? Because it's
Get to
not
the end of this part.
viable in the United States for the reason you mentioned. The idea of climate change and energy, and us spending more energy in light bulbs and forgetting about the biologic aspects. The reason Roger Shahalt and all the other doctors don't know about this is because of that. And who controls the curriculum? Big Pharma. Who gets where most of their money? From the government. So this story is huge. And absolutely am I going to support you in building the bulbs? No question. Am I going to support your graphs? No question. But where I'm going to push back, I'm going to tell you that the story is well known. It's just not well known to the people who need it, which are patients who are getting sick. But the people in the know, I'm talking about the Bobby Kennedys. I'm talking about the Marco Rubios. I'm talking about those guys, the bureaucrats that are in D.C., they know the answer.
So I wanted to play that long clip, and for people that might be joining us for the first time or haven't been all through, we've shared a lot of clips back in the day of Dr. Jack, and his whole story is, me and Dr. Roy have talked a lot about pharmaceutical companies and standard medical care and where things have gone wrong. His whole track is it's more about a story of light, meaning we need to be out in the sun more, especially in the morning whenever there's more beneficial light. And people always come right back and say, well, there's skin cancer. Well, if you don't spend a lot of time in the sun and you go out and you get burned 1 or 3 weeks out of the year, there is a risk of skin cancer. The important key to this is making it a daily habit, building up your skin and getting that vitamin D on a regular basis. And that's the key, the essential key to health. This level with the Zimmerman guy is, we know that our kids are going to be in school and they need some light. We know that we need lights in hospitals. But do we want LED and fluorescent bulbs, which are known to not be good on your general health, in those places? I mean, we should have healing light when we can get it. So I don't know if you got anything to add on that, Doc?
No, sir.
Or Travis? No questions?
Not really.
No ads?
No pushback.
All right. So there's 2 more clips from Dr. Jack. One's only about 3 minutes, which is, I titled it "The Info All Doctors Need." And then there's another one that's Dr. Jack discussing flu and vaccines. And I think that's the clip that I wanted to talk about regarding COVID and the narrative that we were sold. So I'm going to try to get this queued up. 111:23. Try to do it as fast as possible. So
the unvaccinated, they're the devil. The unvaccinated, they're awful. The unvaccinated.
Kill them all.
Cue me up.
Oh, sorry.
And in this one, all you want. Basically, we were showing that the transmission characteristics through the skin and the skull in the near infrared was just lined up perfectly with the cerebral spinal, or the cerebral
there's some deep talk
spinal
here.
fluid.
Bear with me.
Acting like a light guide, bringing the light down into the fissures of the brain. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, I've used these slides to talk to other neurosurgeons and explain to them actually the unusual characteristics of the human brain. Why is the brain the only organ that has light that comes from, I should say, blood vessels that come from outside in the subarachnoid space surrounding by, CSF? The reason is because of what you just showed here on the slide, because of how red light penetrates from the sun. That is the single most important thing. And believe it or not, neurosurgery is about 150 years old. They don't even know what's on this slide. And you know why they don't know it? Is because Big Pharma doesn't want them to know. How was I able to prove this to them beyond a shadow of doubt? When we use ICP monitors. Do you know that some of the new ICP monitors now are using red light actually as a strain gauge to actually tell what the ICP is in the head? So I said to them, you guys already know every time you operate on somebody, we use a pulse ox. I said, now you see it in strain gauges. When are you going to get the message that nature put this into us 2 to 4 billion years ago by how red light works with the sun? And are they asking good questions? Yes, they are. So I can tell you that this is very powerful information that doctors need. This is the reason why. I think neurosurgeons are going to probably lead on this. Why? Because I think we understand light way better than the dermatologists do and the ophthalmologists do. Why? Even though they use light much more frequency in their specialties, they are selling the idea that the sun is toxic to people when people already know. I'm talking about the regular Joes out there already know that their basil and oregano work way better when they're grown in sunlight. You don't have to convince them of that. The key thing is you got to tell them that their grandchildren work exactly the same way. And when people see this, the people like Tina Carew and Hamlet, how are they helping Scott Zimmerman out? Well, no, that red light actually helps your hair grow too. Well, guess what? That's a function of what's going on in your scalp. That's the top.
It's his.
Yeah, his connection's not good.
What you're talking about is this green. It actually helps there too because of the optical window of the scalp, the bone, and the brain. All of these things are incredibly important for people to understand. So if you've got dementia or you got long COVID, this is the reason why the sun is irreplaceable in helping you fix some of these problems.
All right, Dr. Roy, I wanted to play that all the way through just because, I know there are some doctors that listen to this, and I just this weekend at ECC, I have several doctors that I know that are like kind of giving me the nod and the wink. So the reason why I want to share these is because I know they're not hearing it anywhere else. And I know most people, so some of that might fly over the head of some people. I find it fascinating. You look at the pictures on here if you're able to, how red light penetrates through the cheek and gets to the brain and all the benefits. But again, we're talking about not only are we having a massive uptick in autism and that, which is basically encephalitis, right? It's a brain swelling, but we also have a massive uptick in dementia and Alzheimer's, which is again a brain disease. So if vitamin D and the sun is a healing tool that is free, this is something that we need to have beat into doctors' heads, and I don't think our mainstream education systems are going to do it. This is going to have to be something you and I, people like us, talk about it.
Never in the whole time that I was in medicine did anybody ever say anything about getting near infrared light. And I heard that from Jack, and immediately got myself into the saunas that have, guess what, near infrared light. And that's why I spend 30 minutes twice a week in a sauna that has infrared. And I'll throw this out. The best deal in town is at the OSPA if you want to go to their infrared spa. It's very, very nice. And yeah, you'll come out sweating and breathing hard, but it gets a lot of good for you.
Yeah, and I'm just going to push back a little bit. I do the same thing. I do a 3 times a week, do an infrared sauna and cold plunge Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. What I will say, it is no substitute for getting out in the sun in the early morning and being out in the sun on a regular.
It will definitely help.
So it'll help. It's got definitely some help for your mitochondrial function and for healing. We're also taking some methylene blue because it helps with bad cells go away, and it helps the new cells. It benefits the new cells because the old cells, dead cells, are dying, and the methylene blue helps to get rid of them. But the last piece of this, I think it's the last clip I wanted to share from him, is more back in line with us, what we were talking about in regards to COVID, the vaccines, and another vaccine that we've been told that we have to take every year. That is, it's not on the chopping block.
Influenza?
But, the flu vaccine. So this is an interesting clip here.
What the mechanisms are and all that's great, but what do people really need to do right now? They need to do what all three of us are doing. Get outside in the sun.
I agree. Alexis, can you go to the next slide? I like Jack's input.
Yes, sir.
So, during COVID, I started looking at the effect of sunlight on the virus transmission. And I did a paper on seasonality. But there's one quote I think comes in. I don't know. I can't read it from here, to be quite honest. But
I can read it if you want.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so it says, if we knew what suppressed influenza to summertime levels, that would be a lot more effective than any of the flu vaccines that we have. That was from Dr. Scott Dow.
Yeah, and the point is that during the first few months of the pandemic, there was some really great work out of NIAID that showed the half-life of the virus in dark conditions and cold conditions. It was followed up with a test study that looked at the virus half-life in sunlight, and it went from 1 hour to less than 18 seconds. And so we were looking at whether we could use how the environment, and this was tied in with the epidemiological studies that showed that 99% of all the transfers of COVID occurred indoors versus outdoors. And so what we did, if you go to the next slide,
everybody get that?
Alexis.
Yeah.
We did some computational fluid dynamics studies, and we were able to show that how sunlight affect everything. But it turned out the most effective uh, germicide was when sunlight comes up every day, it tends to generate a germicidal level of hydrogen peroxide and ozone, and during the day, and then that drops off, and then the microbes release nitric oxide, and so it seems to be that nature's been providing us with protection, and what we're doing indoors is not only affecting how our body functions efficiently, but it's also affecting how the pathogens are being affected. So
Absolutely. This is the reason why it just reinforces what I told you earlier, that the guy who is the head of NIAID, approved by Reagan in 1982, who made all the mistakes in the AIDS virus, made all the same mistakes in COVID when he told us to go inside. And he knew better. There's papers, just as you said, that were out there showing these effects. But guess what? You can't create a vaccine under an EUA if you have another chemical or drug that actually shows that it's effective. This is the reason why this information was buried. And the thing
yeah, it was frustrating because I tried to get both of them to rerun tests and expand the knowledge base, and all of them came back and said they couldn't. It wasn't part of their scope.
Right. And now you know the reason why. This is the reason why I hope the audience really understands what the bigger game is. Why, for the last 2 years, I've been talking a lot of politics, and why I've been talking about science and things like that, because it scales right down to the health side of things, the decentralized model that I have. Why? Because they don't want you to know how powerful sunlight is. Because if you did know, you're going to wind up not needing a lot of the centralized institutions for a lot of different things. And I can tell you the childhood vaccine schedule happens to be one of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
There you are. So again, Dr. Jack is I don't know what word to describe him. He is controversial in a lot of ways. He's
an expat because he left the United States under pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Where's he at now?
El Salvador.
El Salvador.
The same place where all the MS-13 people have been shipped. So the president there, Bukele, has basically El Salvador was I don't know how many years ago, 5 years ago, I think the most dangerous country on the planet.
Yeah,
and MS-13 gangs.
4.
Yeah, MS-13 basically ran the country, and he ran on basically taking them all off the streets and putting them in prison, and that's what he did. Well, I think as he was putting them in prison, a lot of them got on the migrant train. So that's how a lot of them ended up here. Mm-hmm. And then whenever they, he and Trump, I guess, came up with the arrangement that they're gonna house them. But anyway, El Salvador, I think you said, has gone to like one of the safest places that you can go.
It is,
and it just so happens they use Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you guys are paying any attention to it. I'm sure.
It was up into the high 90s today.
It's 93. It's at 93,000. It was as low as 80. A month or two ago.
Yeah, it was 95 the last time I checked it. So it's gone down a little bit, but I check it 4 or 5 times a day.
You just counting the days till you're buying. I don't know. What are you going to do with all your Bitcoin?
What am I going to do with all my Bitcoin? I don't know.
Going to go to El Salvador?
Probably going to end up in the IRS.
Huh?
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Oh, I wouldn't give it to them, but
they'll find a way to
they'll
tax
find
it.
a way to tax it and get it. Well, they do tax it already. I had like a $3,000 increase that they gave me a 1099 on that I had to deal with.
How did they find out?
If they gave me a 1099.
No. Oh, so your Bitcoin wallet company gave you a 1099?
Yes.
Oh, well, then you're using the wrong wallet.
Yeah, you need to get a different wallet company.
Well,
I've got an
yeah,
overseas
but
wallet company.
Well, that's fine, but you can't stake it and make any money off of it other than the fact that it goes up. But if you do both, it goes inside and they give you like 1 or 2% when you stake it for them for 30 days or for 90 days. And
well, it's kind of going around. The reason why there's a decentralized currency is if we're letting the IRS do that to our money.
Yeah.
And what I will say and why I think that's ridiculous, unless you're selling it.
No, I didn't sell it.
Okay, there's no way they should be charging you because they're not going to give you money back when
it's unrealized gains. Yeah,
that's to me. I would find a different wallet and go around that.
Well, that's the thing with the wallet. They are not staking it, so you're losing 2%, 1 or 2%.
Who's not staking it?
There's
multiple wallets.
Your wallet doesn't stake it.
Well, it depends on mine does.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I can tell you who it is after we're done here because now that we're talking about it, I don't know what the
you got to go look
what
at
the ramifications are. No. Like if he's well, anyway.
Yeah, I don't
want to stick my foot in my mouth here.
I'm getting 1 or 2% on Bitcoin, and I'm getting almost 5% on US dollars.
Mm-hmm. What you're looking for, Chad?
I'm just seeing if there's anything we haven't really covered. I got a couple more clips.
Do you guys notice that the Dow's almost to 40 again? Like it's coming back. Like it's not like everybody's losing their fucking friggin' mind. Excuse me.
Yeah.
That Dr. Jack already ran off the kids, so don't worry about if you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. But I still don't. I didn't mean to. But yeah, that's why I try to tell everybody that it'll come back.
Notice,
my mother was losing her mind.
In the last 2 podcasts, I haven't used the F word.
We're making up. You haven't gotten mad at Chad, is why. No, I love my mom, but she doesn't mean to be a bleeding Democrat because she's a Democrat of like 40 years ago. She's not a Democrat of now.
That's where she was born and raised.
She's a Kennedy Democrat.
And I try to tell her like what's going on, but then finally she's just kind of outlawed politics when we come over. But she was on one the other day. It wasn't for Easter. It was one before that. Oh, I think it was my daughter's birthday. And complaining about how much money she lost and what Trump's done and what these tariffs are doing and blah blah blah. And I'm like, Ma,
it'll all come back.
Well, and it is coming back, and it absolutely will all come back. But I tried, since she started it, I tried to bring up tariffs and why he's doing it and what they're for, and that they're a great bargaining chip. And then I come across some that article that I sent you today that there's like 12 different states trying to sue the. Are they suing the federal government or are they just suing Donald Trump? But they're suing.
They have to sue both of them.
Well, they're suing due to the tariffs.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's stuff sitting in containers or.
Yeah.
Is it because of shortage or something?
I don't recall. Well, no. It's unconstitutional or nobody
it's
or whatever.
Not unconstitutional. It's in the friggin' constitution.
He almost said it. He almost dropped the F-bomb. Did you hear him?
Let me see if I can find it because
you guys are making fun of an old man.
No.
You were trying to be.
I mean, a quack. Not a quack, but a honky.
Honky.
Quack.
Let's see here. I must have sent that to you through Messenger.
Jesus Christ, you got a new bottle.
Oh, the other one, we took it down to the lake.
Oh,
so it's.
I was going to say it emptied. Yeah.
It's got a new location. No, it's down.
Yeah.
It's down. Are you sizing up? Are you keeping track of me, Doc?
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
What the hell, dude?
That's not what I'm looking for. What's the thing that I know. Here it is. Okay. So, a dozen states sue the Trump administration in the U.S. Court of International Trade in New York on Wednesday to stop its tariff policy, saying it is unlawful and has brought chaos to the American economy.
It's not unlawful.
Yeah, sorry, not
Because
a constitutional
it's
unlawful.
mentioned in the Constitution.
Yeah, and I really would like to see where the evidence of the wrecking of the economy is.
Well, that's kind of what made me think about this
Yeah.
after I said about the Dow's, he's coming back up. Everything's
Yeah.
going to come back up. He's just making. We're going to be better off after it's all said and done because he's going to do what he wants to do business wise with all the other countries, and except for China, he doesn't really care about China.
This is just
we need
lawfare.
to get away from.
It's
China.
just lawfare again. I mean,
Yeah.
they put him under impeachment. Like I think by this time in his first administration, he was already being impeached. So I mean, all they're trying to do is just distract him from doing what he's trying to do.
Where's your camera?
And I just don't,
cheers.
And I just don't think it's going to work. I got another clip here. Circling back around.
Notice I'm the only one that's not drinking.
Yeah.
Would you like one?
No.
Oh, okay.
Travis, I think this is the guy that you mentioned. You might have sent me this clip, but I'm going to go ahead and pop
Never
it up.
done any study comparing one year to the next. They've
Yes.
never compared the full vaccine schedule to no vaccines or to partial vaccines. They just don't do that. We looked at every single patient born into my practice up to the point of that data set being closed. We had 10 and a half years of data. It was published in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health. And this was the largest real world patient data, vaxxed, unvaxxed.
So then, to be clear, what you decided to do was, okay, but I do have a large group of children in my practice that use the CDC schedule. So I have all of the evidence that they provided. And then I have the other ones in my practice that didn't use the CDC schedule. And I can compare the two schedules that way. Is that basically what you decided to do?
Well, close. So
Okay.
we were definitely looking at every single patient born in my practice. There
Okay.
was no cherry picking. There was no, we're going to exclude you for this or that. Every baby born was looked at, and we looked at every single office visit. We stratified them according to the number of vaccines they had.
Okay.
So basically, we had over 500 who had 0 vaccines, and then we had another 3,700 and some who had some vaccines. And what we found, Del, was actually even mind-boggling for myself. I mean, I had a sense, I've had a practice now for 14 years where parents get to decide. The one thing I am absolute on is informed consent. You, the parent, get to decide what gets injected into your baby, if anything. You
Right.
should always insist on that or else walk out of that doctor's office. But because we do informed consent, we had a growing number of unvaccinated patients. And what I was clearly seeing was these kids don't get sick. They don't get chronic conditions. Well, the data spoke for itself. And you're showing your viewers the graphs.
is,
Those
yeah.
orange lines are over time, over that 10 and a half years, the more vaccines you had, the worse you were for whether we looked at infections, ADD, ADHD, neurodevelopmental issues, eczema, allergies. It doesn't matter what we looked at, even just plain old anemia skyrockets in the vaccinated when compared to the blue line, the unvaccinated.
Wow.
This data is so powerful that within 5 days of it being available online, they yanked my license. December 3rd, 2020, the Oregon Medical Board had an emergency meeting, suspended my license. I was supposedly a threat to public health. CDC has never done any study comparing 1 year to...
So, Doc, this,
Yeah.
first of all, he's being censored from sharing information. Like, it's one thing. It's one thing saying your information is not right. We're going to dig into it and we're going to prove the information that you shared us is wrong. It looks to me like this wasn't an anecdotal thing. I mean, it's like over 3,000 kids.
Yeah.
He had them in categories, and he was just looking at
4,000 kids over 10 years.
The
is what he said.
results. So, and the fact that they came after him, like he's going to cause some great pandemic because he's questioning the data.
Yeah.
That's absolutely what got us into this COVID mess. The same mechanism. This happened before the COVID thing happened.
And I think they pulled it because he was allowing the parents to choose whether or not to vaccinate their patients, their
kids,
children.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And he was allowing them to do that, and that is not in line with what physicians are taught to be or taught to do. And that's why they pulled his license. Now, do you know if he's gotten his license back yet?
I don't. I think I've seen him he might be doing podcasting and trying to like get the word out about these things. I mean, I think he's probably working outside of the system.
That is a huge bit of information. If you've got a test set of 4,000 kids, and you can show definitive information on this. I mean, that is huge.
Well, I mean, I don't know what everyone at this table really truly believes in, is if you believe in God or God's purpose, or anybody listen to the podcast, whether you do or you don't. But to me, something like this hits you in the head, and you go through all the effort to really run these, this experiment, this long-term experiment, and bring data, and the system that you've worked so hard to make better and to make kids healthier and whatever throws you out, it might be a good opportunity for you to get outside of the system and look back and put the spotlight back on it.
Sure.
I mean, why would you want to get back into a system until the problem's fixed? That's another one of the things that you and I are really trying to cross here. Is are doctors people going to want to continue being doctors with all this all these shenanigans going on?
I mean, it's hardly a week goes by that I Doximity is a sort of online deal for doctors only, and I'm always seeing about should you retire early, should you have a side hustle, all of these things for physicians, because they're looking at what's going to happen to them, because
with AI
sooner or later not so much with AI, but something like this.
Oh, okay.
If 10 other pediatricians had done the same thing during that period of time, and it would have been very easy for them to do that, then they'd be killing all the other ones, and sooner or later people would come back and say, wait a minute, where's my doctor?
Yeah.
And
he accidentally fell on a knife and stabbed himself 27 times.
Hung himself and shot himself in the back.
In the back, yeah.
In the back, yeah.
Yeah. Shot himself 6 times with a bolt action rifle.
There you go, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, part of this is obviously just putting a spotlight on something that's blatantly obvious. I mean, it became so blatantly obvious in the beginning. I started sending you emails and screaming like, "What the hell is going on here?" And I
wish I'd been around you guys then. I really wish I had been around you at that time. Anyway,
me too. I mean, you never know whenever people cross paths. So we had met by that time,
but it wasn't.
It wasn't in this capacity because that hadn't happened yet.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I feel like that's what we're here for now. And there's no going back for me.
Yeah,
I got to find a way to make some money to help fund the bills around the house and stuff, and that's what I'm working on. But I don't want to do stuff just to make money. So some of the things that I put out there are going to offend people. Some of the things out there are going to be like, I can't put my business name on that because that's too controversial. And if you put something out there that's calling out a Democrat or calling out a Republican, these people buy stuff from me. So if I put my name on it,
that's why I started in the dark over here.
Yeah.
That's why.
Because so at some point, if we can improve our
you're
studio,
still ugly, but that's
he's a
why
handsome
we
fella.
don't show
Face for radio? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah, face
he's
for
getting
radio.
Every sip of bourbon I have, he gets prettier.
That's like bourbon goggles.
I changed my goggles.
It's your bourbon goggles. I saw. Yeah,
those are my bourbon goggles.
I think Weird Al wrote a song about that, 9 Coronas.
He did, I think you're right.
Well, I got a couple more clips here, and I think we're kind of winding down as far as the number of clips. For whatever reason, I didn't have as many. So but we dragged on like 3 hours last week, so we're not going to do that this week. This clip is from an insider, I think a whistleblower, and I just find it kind of overlapping. And I'm not sure if you sent me this one or not, Travis, but I felt like this one was going to maybe hit home a little bit too.
I still can't believe this happened with my dad at the hospital. Here is the actual recording I made with my phone.
Hello. Hello. Can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm. My dad's up in the PCU right now, and when he checked in, the ER doc that was here said, first question he was asked was, "Did you take the COVID booster?" Mm-hmm. And then the doctor said not to do it. Mm-hmm. His neighbor was just admitted to the ICU today. And the first question that doctor asked him was, "Did you take the COVID booster?" And he had taken it Tuesday. And he's asking, like, in my mind, that the doctor here must know that there's something wrong with the COVID booster.
Sometimes it does cause cardiomyopathy. Myopathy. It basically enlarges the heart.
Yeah,
that's usually one of the concerns that why we ask about the vaccine.
I mean, you see a lot of people that have that in it? Because like he asked my dad and my neighbor. I mean,
It's a common question we ask everybody. If they've gotten the vaccine, then what? We look at the chest X-ray and see if the heart's in moderate issues. So it's one of the side effects that we've seen from the vaccines.
Don't you think human beings have a right to hear this, like on the news? Like, it's like, and the reason I'm asking is very personal to me. My wife's best friend died on April 6, 2021, in her sleep at age 47, right?
Sure.
And that's for the last 3.5 years, like wrestling with all of the people I encounter, because like I never took it, and because our friend died, and it's 3.5 years later. We have heart problems. The ER doc, the first question they ask is like, did you take the booster?
Right.
So it's important to do your research.
And 100% of people think that, have you ever seen on the news or the newspaper or from the CDC or the FDA? Like, it drives me bananas. It makes me so sad.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you can fight that good fight. Call your senator, call the CDC.
That's all I've done for 3.5 years. But here you guys are on the front lines of the ER doctor. What about him? What is his role in the process, right? What is your role in the process? Like, can you sit here with a good conscience and not call Channel 9 News and like let this go on and on and on? I mean,
hey Jerry, we're done. We're done here. We're done. We're done.
Are we done? Like, what are you gonna escort me out? I mean,
yeah, we don't need to talk about that. Your personal beliefs are your personal beliefs. That's fine. I don't need to go to Channel 9 and start talking.
I'm just telling you, two people. This is in the last 2 weeks, right?
I know.
You got it? Yeah.
I know. Have a good day.
All right.
Let's go.
All right.
Golden handcuffs, golden duct tape.
Yep.
So the guy,
That's the way.
the guy caught. I guess I don't know if that was an ER doctor.
Probably a hospitalist. Yeah.
And a nurse. They were both basically confirming everything that we've talked about.
Yeah.
And that's been, so again, we're circling back around to what our local media is doing and what they aren't doing. And the reason why I can't have the big fancy studio is because they're getting paid by companies locally that won't allow these types of conversations to happen. And and so, it's not popular to some. It is offensive. It's offensive for many reasons. I'm offended. I'm highly offended by what has taken place. And I'm sure there's people within this. I know a ton of people that reached out to me very early on whenever me and my small team started creating the battle plan to fight medical tyranny. We had several people that quit because they didn't want to take the jab. We had several people that were fired. We had just countless people, and we kept trying to get people just to come out and talk, and it was so difficult. I think they're afraid of getting sued. They're afraid of all these different things.
The head physician at one of the local health groups stood up in front of Rotary and said, the majority of people who are in the hospital right now took the booster. And I'm thinking, why? Why are they in the hospital and why are the people who didn't take that? And I tried to ask that question. He said, I don't know. I really don't know. And the answer was that the people with the booster are more susceptible to getting COVID.
So was there something messed up about this booster versus the original jabs or something?
The original jabs are just as bad.
Okay, well, he was just talking about the booster in that clip, so I'm playing that.
Well, because that's what you take now. That's the most common thing.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be getting a booster every year, and it's been...
I'd probably be dead now if I had the booster every year.
4 years since I've taken a booster.
Well, so part of this ongoing discussion again is to bring light that we're not sure, and I'm hopeful that RFK starts getting louder regarding.
Give me just a little splash there, bartender.
Yeah, sure. I hope RFK starts getting louder based on the mRNA things that are not being talked about.
I'm telling you, he's got golden handcuffs on for that one. I'm convinced.
Okay, I'm just continuing to say it though. That
had I been in that position, I would have cut it back day one.
Yeah.
But obviously he's got something that's holding him back.
Well, and what should be holding him back is a guilty conscience. That again, how do you not scream from the rooftops?
How do you not scream from the rooftops is when you're facing like a $65 million billion dollar problem.
A lawsuit, loss of money, loss of life, accidentally shooting yourself in the back, whatever. Any of those things are probably.
But, we'll just keep giving.
I can't believe it's still out there. That boggles my mind. So when we
not only that, but it's on the schedule. People don't know that it's even a potential issue.
Yeah, there's a lot that don't.
Like there's just complete
we're not jobs for thinking
non-knowledge. Yeah. There's no knowledge on it in the mass media.
No, there may be knowledge, but they just don't put it out there because they've got
golden handcuffs.
Well, they've got Pfizer advertising every other.
I can't wait for that to go away too. I was talking to my wife about that. He's talked about doing it. I hope he does it.
Yeah,
RFK, that is. RFK getting
We're one of only 2 countries, and I think as soon as that happens, things would definitely change.
What's the other one? Do you happen to know?
New
I don't
Zealand.
know. New
Zealand.
Oh, interesting. I truly didn't know.
Yeah.
All right, so this probably final main clip, and then if we stick to I don't know if the adding the music at the end got us kicked off of YouTube, and to be quite frank, I don't really care about YouTube.
Yeah. Probably because you used that without the permission of the...
Yeah, and so if I share your clip or share Travis's clip, we probably could potentially get in trouble.
Well, I sent you a YouTube clip, so I'm hoping that by using a YouTube clip, YouTube won't tick it.
Well, the one I sent was a YouTube as well.
Well, we may since we're kind of short or a little early, we might just do both of your clips.
Whichever.
Either way, if one of them if they're both YouTube and that works, then
I'm hoping
it'll be fine.
I don't know that for a fact.
So this is controversial. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't even know what to think about it, honestly, just yet. Being a part of the church myself, and being conflicted about things that have gone on in the church over time, I've always been conflicted, and it's just one of those things. I feel it's my duty to have conversations. People always say you shouldn't talk about politics or religion.
You said duty.
I actually, he said duty. Okay, Beavis.
Sorry. That's my daughter anytime she says something.
Duty.
He said continue. Okay, it's your duty.
I feel it's my duty to at least open the conversation up and to really look at the problems that may be there. It's when you're a good Catholic or you're a good Christian or whatever, I guess you're supposed to just sit quiet and let the authorities work it out because they're there to work it out. And I just don't believe in that. I believe in light is the greatest disinfectant in most cases. And so I'm going to play this clip. People might tune off. Might hear some rumbling back, and that's fine.
Stick with us. We got some good music later.
Yeah, we're gonna
stick with us.
Go out with I think some Rush and some Slipknot.
Yep.
Whoa. And we're going to talk about
nice doc.
Maybe talk about why. Did you come back with the reason why you really like the song? Do you have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll circle back.
Explain that completely.
If you need to, this clip is 4:52. It's about 2.5 minutes long. So if you're just totally off put by it, skip forward 2.5 minutes so you can hear Dr. Roy and Travis's sound bites.
Conclave falls. Many people today are paying attention to this video from Archbishop Vigano talking about Pope Francis and his collaboration with Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum and the destruction of the church as a whole. Take a listen.
The Fourth Revolution, theorized by Klaus Schwab and the family of international finance, find in Bergoglio not a neutral spectator, which would itself already be an unheard of thing, but actually a zealous cooperator who abuses his own moral authority in order to support a destra outside the church, the project of the dissolution of traditional society. While ad intra within the church, he pursues the project of the demolition of the church in order to replace her with a philanthropic organization of Masonic inspiration.
Damn,
and it is scandalous. This applies to both, to civil and ecclesiastical world, confirming the pactum celeri, the criminal conspiracy between the deep state and the deep church. It seems to me that in this conspiracy, the role of the Jesuit has been decisive. It is no coincidence that for the first time in history, a religious of the Society of Jesus is seated on the throne of Peter.
It certainly would seem that Archbishop Vigano is onto something. There is a deep state and there is a deep church indeed. As we see the current rise of conservatism in political movements worldwide, this strong sense of traditional and conservative values being demanded in the political arena, so too do we see this when it comes to faith. Many Christians around the world have been for too long now embracing woke ideologies like transgender and alien baptism, female preachers and bishops, and other behaviours completely devoid of tradition. Many would like to see a return to tradition with their church fathers and leaders. What remains to be seen is who the next pope will be and whether, as Archbishop Vigano warns, he will be captured by the globalist system which seeks to establish ecumenism, a one-world religion, or whether the Roman Catholic Church will finally have a return to tradition and the original teachings of the Church Fathers. Nonetheless, we want to give our heartfelt condolences to Roman Catholics around the world, and we will be praying that God may forgive Pope Francis, as all humans are in need of forgiveness.
Interesting.
I thought that was a very interesting clip. I didn't know what it would spark in either one of you. I know you, Travis, you think about religion a lot. We've talked about it some.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very, may you rest in peace. I've been very critical of this pope and many popes, and there's a lot of stuff that has gone on that I'm, obviously not privy to on the inside, and why things get swept under the rug or not directly addressed. But to me, it's really no different than the same kind of tyranny we've dealt with in the medical realm, and the same thing we deal with in governance and everything. It's like, if they're doing harm, if they're using their influence to, create a one world religion, if that's the path that they're running, similar to a one world government, that to me is a road to tyranny. There is no if, and, or but about it. And so if that's a goal whenever they're, the Klaus Schwab just stepped down from WEF, but certainly there's somebody just like him that's moving in,
or worse,
kind of like when George Soros gave his power to his son. I don't think that was definitely not an upgrade, unless you're on the side of evil. But anyway, I don't know if you have a thought on it, Travis, but
honestly, I had no idea that the Pope was doing some type of under the table dealings with the Masons or whatever she was getting at there. I had no idea that was really a thing. But I don't know. I mean, well,
the Catholic Church and the Masons virtually hate each other, and they. I think because it goes back to the 1100s when the Knights Templar, which were the precedent of the Masons, were burned at the stake in Paris. So that's why they don't like each other, and there's a lot of that.
So I don't have much to say on that once again because I didn't realize that was even a thing, but I do kind of agree with her as far as conservative ideology. I'd like to see that kind of come back. I'm probably going to be hung for this one. This is going to be controversial, so if everybody needs to plug their ears,
you won't be hung.
They can plug their ears. But I mean, I think that a lot of what's going on right now in our society.
Finish what you're saying. Share my screen.
Okay, I'll share your screen.
Keep going.
But I think a lot of it's mental health issues. I think there's a lot of mental health that's not being. We're not doing anybody a favor by not trying to help them with their mental health issue if we just affirm their fantasy world that they live in. I don't know. I'm beating around the bush on purpose because I don't really want to get too into it. But I mean,
it's basically the woke mind virus and giving people soft mittens and bouncing around the issues that they have rather than knocking the issue out head on. And saying, here's the thing,
the issue, here's the reason why.
Here's where you're here, most likely.
Yeah,
and rather than we got to cater to everybody's whim and all that. Right. So you shared this particular meme, and Dr. Roy may or may not see it, but Pope Francis urges people to get vaccinated, calling it an act of love. Being vaccinated, and he was talking about COVID vaccines, and so again. Didn't hear anything in the Catholic Church, didn't hear anything from Pope Francis about what's going on with the vaccines and the problems that are happening. And there was several reasons why he wasn't my favorite Pope. I do wish him wish him the best in the after, and he deserves forgiveness like everyone else. But as soon as this particular thing was kind of the deal sealer for me whenever he was putting pressure on people for the COVID vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so
I'm keeping my mouth shut, being the only non-Catholic in the room.
I was raised Catholic. I'm more be perfectly honest with you, I'm what most people would call agnostic.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on where you go with things. I mean, we could be in a simulation.
Very possible.
You laugh at that, but I mean, I'm getting closer and closer to.
He and I can talk ourselves into that pretty quick.
I mean, okay. So think about, there's a game called The Sims, right?
Yeah.
And on today's computer technology that we have, that our civilization has, those Sims can live a life. They can have children. They can have a career. They leave work. They have breakfast. They do whatever. They do their thing in the game, right? And so me being the person who's over top of the game, I'm kind of like their god. Not to be blasphemous, but I mean, I can control what's going on in that game, right? Okay, so now we're coming along, we're learning about quantum computing, and we're finding, I think we're at a really weird tipping point where we're going to have a massive influx in technology's ability now that we have found a way to utilize quantum computing, okay? So let's think now, 30 years from now. So technology 30 years ago, or let's just say computers 30 years ago versus computers now. I think it's going to be even greater of a difference 30 years from now, or from now to 30 years in the future, on what those computers can do.
Well, they're projecting every 6 months that I don't remember what the actual formula was, but
it's like
it'll be triple the power, the compute, the intelligence.
Okay, so think about a game like The Sims 30 years from now on a machine that's 7,000 times more powerful than the machines we have now. I mean, you're getting close to almost sentient life. Like you're getting almost, you can, especially if an AI or some other system can write the game and give it its own AI within the game. If you start giving each individual character in that game AI, to a point, they're probably going to think they're real.
Yeah.
Well,
and they're in a simulation, and they're in a game.
Well, and keep on going.
Sorry, I'm getting.
Movies about that have been made.
I understand that, and a lot of people, and some people have thought of that, and I'm just saying that's a possibility. Once again, I'm not putting all my eggs in that basket necessarily, but as far as Catholicism goes, that's where this all started. I was force fed Catholicism until I was about 16 or 17. I kind of diverged. I believe there's a higher being, whether that be a person behind a really powerful computer controlling our simulation, or if it really is a God. I don't necessarily. I think the Bible. I think the Bible was used as a teaching tool. I don't really think that everything in the Bible necessarily really happened. I think it's just a way to try to show good and evil, what you should what you should do versus what you shouldn't.
Well, and I brought up this with a guy that
I'm getting really deep here.
A guy with that greatly trust, and we did a huge whiteboard here a couple days ago, and we got down. This is where Asprov came up, and I as soon as I brought up what if AI is God, I just said, what if AI is God? AI is God, or AI is a God, and he was like. He wrote it. He wrote something down because we were talking about something else. He wrote it down and he came back to this. I think Asprov, is that how am I pronouncing that right? Leonard Nimoy basically does the thing, but basically he says I need to pay attention to this. So my point kind of overlap with what your point is on the AI front would be think about Neuralink and what Neuralink can do now versus what it might be able to do later. Think about Star Trek. Star Trek, basically, you could beam from one point to another. Who's to say, after everything else that's come true in all of the different sci-fi shows that we've watched over time, like what sci-fi show can you point to and say that could never happen now? So if you go that far out, and we're building robots that we'll be able to send to Mars. Most people...
We already got robots on Mars.
Well, most people believe that VR is going to continue. Like, people are going to choose to be in a simulation in VR and immersed in that more and more. And it might not be about you physically going to Mars, but your
avatar.
Your avatar.
Your surrogate. I've talked to you about this movie, Surrogates.
So you could be basically immersed in everything and have the feelings with the brain and whatever. So... maybe it's not time travel in the way, the sense of what we think about our body, physical bodies going through the belt, the radiation belt, doing all that. But maybe it's a more of a, you're here, but you're simulating there, you know, or, you know, kind of like what's the movie with the blue people. It's kind of similar.
Avatar?
Yeah. The movie Avatar. So again, what, you know, the AI as God thing is kind of an interesting view. Not that I believe it necessarily, but again,
there's a lot of these. This could happen, or this could be the way of things that we don't really know.
How can you rule it out?
Right.
I mean, how can you rule it out? And so it's interesting. But again, this is one of those things that I don't think parents are really talking about or thinking about it.
There's a lot of rules out there that make you feel like there could be like hard coding. Like we can't go faster than the speed of light. Like, why is that? I mean, I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to get really deep. So we need to go elsewhere.
You know, you were talking about a lot of things in the Bible not being true or being used as ways to teach and all that.
Yeah.
They discovered Sodom and Gomorrah a couple of years ago that was completely devastated according to what was put in Genesis. And they've found the places. And
I'm not saying the whole thing is fiction. I'm just saying that some of it I think might be a little beyond what really happened.
Oh, well, sure.
Or why it happened.
Well,
do you think Moses could really part the sea? You know, that kind of thing. Did that really happen? Well, maybe there was an earthquake or something that caused it.
They figured that out, yeah. They figured out that it was a tidal wave.
Tidal wave, there you go.
Yeah.
So there's, I mean, you know, I'm just saying things like that.
And, well, there are a lot of other things, too. Like, you know, there were books that weren't included in the Bible because they were so outrageous, even though the people who wrote them swore that everything happened.
It was testimony.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Enoch.
Yep.
The book of Enoch is one that they talk about on TV all the time in history.
Yeah, it was sort of like the original censorship.
Yeah.
Was basically, and you get into this with all your alien channel stuff and whatever that you watch.
Ancient aliens.
But it's like, you know, whoever conquers or whoever survives writes the new history.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's things that were just removed from time.
Sure.
And things we could learn from, things we could benefit from.
There was a synod held in about one of the 300s or so, and that's when they were putting the Bible together, and they threw away a lot of good stuff. And when we found the Dead Sea Scrolls, we found all that stuff that was written out. And that's why they talk about the book of Enoch, because it was taken away from the Bible, but we found written scripts of it in the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Well, there's going to be a lot. Obviously, AI will be used in a lot of decoding, and we're probably going to learn a lot more things, not just from a sentient AI that's, you know, smarter than 1,000 doctors and astrophysicists and all these things put, you know, together, smashed together.
Grok's pretty smart, but he always says at the end of it, "I'm not a doctor."
Yeah. Well, and Grok still has a lot of weaknesses. I mean, it's got biases built into it that I'm uncovering whenever I'm asking questions.
Right.
But anyway, this is an interesting conversation. I feel it's a conversation that needs to be had, that people need to be thinking about, because a lot of things happen to us in life, be it, you know, the internet coming onto the stage. People didn't really know what to expect. People thought the internet was going to kind of come and go.
Hey, I went through my entire education with a slide rule.
Yeah.
And you're probably more intelligent than most kids.
And I was the first resident to have a portable counter on that. It had 4 AA's, you know, like
a calculator,
a calculator.
Okay.
And it had 4 AA batteries in it that you had to change a couple of times a month. But it was about 3 times the size of this, but I could fit it in my coat pocket. And I was the first guy doing, you know, not using a slide rule to deal all the things out, figuring out, how much
like dosages and things.
Dosages
Okay.
and putting in other stuff and getting the square root of.
What year would that have been?
That would have been in 1976.
Wow.
It was halfway through 1976.
I honestly didn't realize.
Yeah.
Huh. Oh, there you go.
I mean, there were small calculators, but they weren't small enough to carry in your pocket. They were, about this big.
Like the plug-in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were plug-ins, but
Yeah.
this one, it had a little green screen, and you tapped in what you wanted, and it popped right up. And it was.
Did Texas Instrument make it?
No, I think.
That's okay.
Mine wasn't Texas Instrument. I think it was H&P.
Oh, Hewlett Packard.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So, somewhat sidestep. It's we're still in the same, but we're still talking about AI. But we've talked about AI in schools and what that might look like in the future. And I don't know why I didn't save the clip or where I found it, but whenever I do find it, I'll bring it. But
sure.
A guy basically said there's a school and I don't remember the state, a school in a certain state that is inserting AI into the classroom.
Is it that gets them 2 years ahead?
Yeah. Did you see
I
that
saw
clip?
that. I might have sent it to you. I'm not sure, but I know what you're talking about.
So basically, Dr. Roy, the AI, I'm assuming it's a personal AI, like an AI assist, and it helped a kid who is either 2 years behind or whatever. I don't know if they're 2 years behind or if they got on a subject for 2 hours, and it advanced them 2 grades.
Yeah, I always felt
2 hours in two grades. So we're talking about compute power and getting our kids learning the things they need to learn or getting caught up to their class in certain things. And these are the tools that I feel like we need to know that they're out there because we can use them, but we also need to be putting the safeguards on it.
Yeah.
Right. So,
well, I always felt cheated because I wasn't advanced in any grades. And they said, no, you've always got to stay. And I said, I was smarter than 95% of the kids. And I said, why can't I go to the 8th grade now? No, well, you got to finish your 7th grade.
I'm a big conspiracy theorist in this whole realm. I've never understood why they group kids simply by age. All kids are different at all different.
Sure.
Some people
Doogie Howser, man,
much smarter in certain areas, much not as intelligent in others, and having the interaction with older kids and younger kids.
I was reading books without any pictures in them when I was 3 years old.
Oh wow. But I mean, you're made to spend 18 years in schoolroom with kids all your same age, and then when you get out of there, you're just thrown into the world with a bunch of kinds of different age people. So it's like it makes no sense. That's not the way you're going to ever work.
Mm-mm.
You're not going to work in a corporation with a bunch of people your age. I mean, it's just not.
I could have started with what I could do. I could have started kindergarten when I was 3.5. And now they're letting 12-year-olds start at Harvard.
Mm-hmm. I thought you were saying kindergarten.
At 16, they're ready to go to medical school.
Mm-hmm. My niece, just over where she goes to school, when she graduated high school, she had an associate's degree.
A lot of kids can do that now.
And it was a high school. It was a program that the high school was partnership. Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. So that's, one of my patients did that thing, and she graduated high school with an associate's degree in respiratory therapy and then went on to get a
bachelor's
further degree in respiratory therapy, and she's a respiratory therapist at one of the big places around here.
Well, anyway, so I know we do have some teachers that watch the podcast. All I'll say is I know that you're talking and thinking about this, and if you want to have a conversation, or if anyone wants to send me some insider info about kind of what you're doing in your schools and how the school systems are approaching this. I don't know if this is a good thing to consider being centralized. I'm a kind of a decentralize everything and decentralize all segments of our our systems. But I feel like there is knowledge out there, and we shouldn't necessarily all try to learn it independently. We should move in mass on things and educate each other where we can. And I feel like education AI is something that we should be talking about at a bigger picture.
You and I have had that conversation a little bit. It's a pretty simple idea that so each kid. So for instance, even my daughter, who's in the first grade, they all have their own iPads that they use in class. Now they're restricted. They can't get on whatever, but they can do whatever the teacher's plan is. If each one of those if a kid had each one of those specifically for them, and they took a few tests or did some reading with them or did some math with them, some kids are going to be better in math. Some kids are going to be better in reading. Some kids are going to be better in writing, whatever it might be. If there was just a pretty simple program on there to help devote a little more time to their deficiencies versus for my daughter, for instance, she excels at math. But her reading isn't, I think it's because she can't really sit still, but her reading isn't necessarily where her math abilities are.
Time for Adderall.
I'm not ever, not going to do that. But, if she had if her iPad knew that her reading was needing a little more work than her math, then it would spend a little more time or it would change. I mean, individualized AI, as you've said, I think is going to be could be a huge step.
I think we need to talk about it for kids in school. One of the big debates might be: should we have the filters at the house level, or should the filters be at the school level? Because again, it's a powerful tool, and it can be used. Absolutely. It can be used in ways that if the parents aren't privy to what's being taught or what these AIs are, how they're programmed. To me, that's where the individual programming, the individual filters, you can check.
That's where people who are a little more tech savvy like you and I are probably going to have the upper hand a little bit, and where maybe we could help. Either, I don't want to say it gets dumbed down, but there's some type of interface that makes it very simple for every parent.
You can have an AI that tracks your kid's AI and gives you a summary of the things that should be a pretty.
We're not there yet, but I mean,
but it's coming where you'll be able to have a prompt every day when you'll ask your AI.
That'd be great, because when I asked my daughter, what did you do today? She's like, I can't remember.
Yeah, and she's wicked smart. And I ask my son every day. He's like, "What'd you learn today?" He's like, "Meh."
Yeah, right.
Come on, man. We're paying good money to hear meh.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it's a fascinating conversation.
Typical 13, 14-year-old.
Indeed it is.
Yeah.
Mine's 7 going on 16.
Yeah.
Good luck, sir.
Oh, yeah. Good luck to you.
So which one of you guys want to start off? I kind of feel like the Slipknot might be like the last song, because there might be some people might be going like, oh my God. It's an awesome song. Well, I love it.
I wrote a blurb about my song.
Yeah.
So this song affects me quite a bit, actually.
Yeah.
It's a band, Rush it's my favorite band, so of course it's going to be Rush.
A band of Rush?
A band called Rush.
Oh, the band.
Canadian rock band.
The band Rush.
First album 1974, last album 2015, I think is when this Clockwork Angels came out. Neil, the drummer, did pass away.
Choked on his own vomit.
No, actually, it was brain cancer.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. So I have a little blurb about this. The song's called "The Garden." It's a pretty powerful song to me. I think I've already told my wife I want it played at my funeral, and I wrote a little bit about it to kind of give a little idea of what it's kind of about a little bit. But for me, it's a reflection of life, love, and mortality, and the importance of cherishing every moment. The song uses a metaphor of a garden to represent the accumulation of experiences, relationships, and memories throughout a lifetime. It suggests that the measure of a life is not just about grand achievements, but about love, respect, and nurturing of relationships. The garden that Neil, so the drummer's name is Neil Peart, and he is the main lyricist of the band and has been since he started with them in 75. Neil writes about the garden that Neil writes about symbolizes the life we build through our actions, attitudes, and relationships. The treasures that you'll hear that they talk about in the garden, of this garden, are love and respect, both given and received. The garden emphasizes the importance of making the most of every moment and not letting life pass you by. The morality aspect of the song is a theme speaking about the need to reflect on our lives and legacies before we pass on. So like I said, Rush's last live show was actually August 1st of 2015. Neil, their drummer and lyricist, passed away January 7th of 2020, which was just 5 days before my birthday that year, and it was actually a pretty rough one. I've never met the man, but he was a pretty, he had a large effect on me, and this is my father's favorite band, so I mean, it was we had a kind of a shared...
I'm shocked you're not wearing one of your Rush shirts today.
Issue. Yeah, no, I'm not. I didn't think about it. I didn't think I was going to be today. I thought I was going to be the next podcast. But anyway, so this song I sent to Chad. It's called The Garden. It's by Rush. It's a great song.
So it's a 7-minute song. So we got to...
You don't have to play the whole thing. Just maybe give it a couple, 3-4 minutes.
I mean, I could play it all. And if we do, I mean, I don't know. 7 minutes, then yours is like 5 minutes, I think, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've only been going for 2:20, so I mean,
okay,
whatever.
we can do it. And then you want to talk about it a little bit afterward. I'm
sure. No, I wanted to give my blurb before, and now people can listen to it and get their own ideas about it.
So we'll listen to it. If you just give me a signal and you're like, it's kind of good, and I highly recommend it. And I'm intrigued by the artwork on the. Is this the album cover or just for the song?
No, that's the album cover for Clockwork Angels. It was their last studio album,
what the symbolism, what the symbols are.
Not the symbol specifically, but it's about time. I think they all were under the realization that they knew that this was going to kind of be the last piece that they did, and a reflection of them being together for about 40, little over 40 years then.
So maybe you said it, and I just kind of I missed it. This was their last album.
Yep.
Last song. Like, is this like kind of the song that ties everything together? For
this is kind of this song is definitely very. Like I said, it's about. There's some talk about mortality, about reflection of life.
Was he already ill, and he kind of knew that
he may very well have been, but nobody knew about it. Like I said, he passed away about 5 years after their final show. This album came out 5 or 6 years before he passed away, and I don't know if he knew he was sick or not. But he was a brilliant man, a wonderful lyricist, just a great guy all around. I don't know.
Here we go.
So one little thing, just talking about how great of a guy he was. After that 2015 show, up until he got so sick that he couldn't get out anymore, he volunteered time at his daughter's school. He would read to them for an hour and then work in their library for like 3 or 4 hours, like putting books away and just helping people find stuff.
That's awesome.
Anyway, he was just a good dude. And it sucks that
you'd have loved to have been at that school.
Died too. I would have. Excuse me, Mr. Parrott, can I find maybe the book about Tom Sawyer that you wrote about back in Moving Pictures? Anyway, The Garden by Rush.
Yeah. Yep. So just for anybody that's listening, if you haven't heard of Rush, I think probably their most well-known song might be Tom Sawyer.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, everybody has heard that anthem.
They were inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't know, 6-7 years ago.
Okay.
So, I mean,
I'm going to play some of it, and I don't know if I'll play all of it, but we're going to get to Dr. Roy's. Do you want to talk about your blurb? Let's listen to his blurb.
Sure.
And then we'll come back to this. That way, if anybody just wants to hear what his thoughts, they can listen to the song on their own and pull and all that.
Mine is the song Kill Pop by Slipknot. And the author of the lyrics is the frontman, Corey Taylor. And according to Taylor, the song is a metaphor for his love-hate relationship with the music industry. The she in the lyrics personifies music and the industry itself, reflecting his passion for creating music juxtaposed against his frustration with the business side, dealing with executives, financial pressures, and the exploitation of the artist's creativity. There are some really vivid imageries in the lyrics, like she's sticking needles in her skin and drowning in herself again, depicts a self-destructive entity which metaphorically aligns with Taylor's view of the music industry. So I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay.
If you've heard it before, it's a pretty rough kind of thing. So
Dr. Roy has surprised several people, and I think Travis and Dr. Roy drove together, and he had on some. Was it Slipknot that you had on when he was in the car? It was
Octane. I think it was a serious channel. I don't remember what was playing, but I was
he couldn't believe that I was a headbanger.
Yeah, so that's your primary. That's your primary music.
I either listen to Octane or Nitro,
and what's Nitro?
Nitro has the older stuff. The 19s and the 20s and
of heavy metal.
Okay. And Octane is all the new stuff mainly, but they'll have some old stuff they throw in.
Well, I might have told you in one of our earlier podcasts. I think I wore Judas Priest shirt on one podcast.
Yeah.
And like I was kind of a headbanger. Well, I was a headbanger. Was kind of like I listened to Iron Maiden, Dokken, and all those.
Yeah. I just pulled up Dawkins and
old Metallica.
Yeah, and listened to the one they wrote about the crazy guy with the stuff coming out of his hands that he sticks into people. Freddy Krueger.
Oh yeah. I remember that. I remember that. They did a video. They had a video that had Freddy Krueger in it, didn't they?
Yeah, they did that, but their song was called Dream Warriors.
That's right. They did. It was a soundtrack. They did.
It sounds like a soundtrack.
It was a soundtrack,
song, probably.
Yeah.
And I pulled that up the other day and was listening to it.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna play some of Travis's song here.
Rush the Garden.
Rush the Garden. And give me the signal whenever you think it's like pretty good. Gives everybody a good feel of the song.
Sure.
I've heard
it's mellow. It's slower. It's a little slower,
but we can't let Dr. Roy fall asleep.
Okay.
So
no, I'm not going to fall asleep. Ever since Methylene Blue, I don't fall asleep.
I can't nap hardly anymore.
Yeah, me either.
In this one of many possible worlds, all for the best or some bizarre test. It is what it is, and whatever. Time is still the infinite jest. The arrow flies when you dream. The hours tick away, the cells take away. The watchmaker keeps to his schemes. The hours tick away, they tick away. The measure of a life is a measure of love and respect. So hard to earn, so easily burned. The measure of a life is a measure of love and respect. So hard to earn, so easily burned. In the fullness of time, a garden to nurture and protect. In the rising set of the sun, till the stars go spinning, spinning round the night. Oh, it is what it is, and forever. Each moment a memory in flight. The arrow flies while you breathe. The hours tick away, the cells tick away. The watchmaker's time up his sleeve. The hours tick away, they tick away. The measure of a life is a measure of love and respect. So hard to earn, so easily burned. In the fullness of time, a garden to nurture and protect. The treasure of a life is a measure of love and respect. The way you live, the gifts that you give. In the fullness of time is the only return that you expect.
All right, Travis. Thanks. This is a good break point.
Yeah, that's a good.
That's a good point.
We're
But
about
I mean, just,
we're about 3 minutes
you know.
45 seconds in, so there's quite a few. And what that song really kind of, to me, what I love about Rush, you and my wife share a love for Rush. I don't think you knew that till just recently. I do love the fact that they're telling a story, and there really is thoughts in the song. It's a
thinking man's rock.
A lot of current music drives me crazy with just the repetition, and there doesn't really seem to be any meaning except for something that means nothing.
This song will play at my funeral.
Yeah,
I think it's a great song. It talks about your love and your respect and the gifts that you give, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a grand. You don't have to be a. One of Neil's big things was that he loved playing music. He loved writing music. He loved how amazing they were for the world, but he didn't like necessarily the limelight, which was another song by them. So
yeah,
he just you don't have to be this. He also felt that too many people looked up to musicians and athletes and stuff like that. Was kind of, he talked about that in some interviews and things. So it's just a good song. But yeah, I definitely, most of their music is pretty deep. If you listen, if you read the lyrics, listen to it, think about it a little bit, there's usually some
there's the problem. A lot of people don't want to. A lot of people don't want to think about stuff.
That's true. My wife included. She doesn't like movies where she has to think, like watching Inception or like any. And she's like, no.
And I love it. I
don't want to think.
Travis, I hope I don't live long enough to go to your funeral.
Right. So. It'll be there.
Yeah,
as long as my wife listens to what I want.
Yeah.
If I'm still in the picture, I will.
You make sure that the Garden by Rush is played.
I will make sure that happens.
That was actually played at Neil's memorial. It was never even met the man, but it's a pretty big deal to me.
That's the music can connect people like that for sure.
All right, Doc. Let's do some head banging.
Yeah,
I don't even know what this song's got some tempo to it.
Oh, it's got some serious tempo to it.
Sounds like my wife might have just gotten home.
Yeah, I heard the doggy.
The dogs are sounding the alarm. Mm-hmm. There we go. There's video on this one if anybody wants to see it. And if YouTube cancels us out, this is on YouTube.
They've got a pair of twins there that are rolling around. See?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She's sticking needles in her skin. I turn with another grin. Her canvas doesn't leave a lot to fantasy, but her peace of mind can't stay inside the lines. It's so confusing, the methods that she's using. She knows she shouldn't leave a mark that I can see. Will she ever find 1 million of a kind that's cold and lonely? But that's because she told me, lost inside her dirty world, no one hurts this pretty girl but her.
That's Corey Taylor right there.
A little better than a man deserves.
Nice.
It's good enough.
So, Dr. Roy, I want to know.
I like Duality by them a lot.
You can't just run away.
Yeah, I'm not running.
What draws you? What draws you as someone? If I met you for the first time,
Yeah.
not in a million years would I think he's a Slipknot guy.
Yeah.
So what draws you to the music? Like what calls you? Why is it your go-to?
Well, I got started on this back, in the 70s, listening to Queen, listening to the Rolling Stones, and a lot of the ones, Kiss, all of those. It's just gone forward from there.
Like, I'm assuming you were a fan of Korn at something.
Yeah, Korn was one of my favorites.
Because they were more like mid 90s.
Yeah,
late 90s.
they were in the mid to late 90s.
Because I think that's kind of when I got into like the more of the head. I don't consider this like metal. It's more as like, I don't know. I guess it is metal, but
Yeah,
it's like a head. It's like a different category.
Well,
to me.
yeah, they said that it was they said the name of it is Kill Pop, and they said it's a poppy like song, but it's different from what they usually play.
I do like
quite
the
as-
different aspects. Like it's got kind of a cool story to it, and then then you just start thrashing. I mean, I do love how it breaks it up like that.
His whole thing in writing it was that the making music and the art was being outdone by the money and the requirements and everything else. So,
does anybody know what their faces look like, or are they always in character?
Oh, I've seen Corey Taylor's face.
So have you heard Corey's other band, Stone Sour?
Oh yeah, Stone Sour.
I like Stone Sour.
Stone Sour doesn't exist anymore.
But the music does still.
It does. The best Stone Sour that I ever heard was a takeoff of the Rolling Stones' "Give Me Shelter," and Lizzie Hale was doing the female.
Yeah,
you ought to look that up and listen to it, because I think it's better than the Stones did it.
I've got a question.
And I heard the Stones.
I got a question for both of you.
Yeah.
So I think I know where you're at, but because your lyrics, I mean, for the lyrics, the music, the words draw.
Well, being a
call to
percussionist,
you
I'm a
lot.
drummer. I've been a drummer since I was
They call
8,
to you a
so,
lot.
yeah.
I find myself enjoying music more for the progression of the sound.
Yeah.
More than the lyrics. A lot of times, like I just catch myself like hearing the riff and then going to here and like the transitions and everything. I'm more into that, and like the words. I mean, is it more the words, or is it more just the energy and the?
It's both.
Yeah.
It was that, this is only the second or third time that I've ever seen this performed. I've just been hearing it because it came out in 2014. So it's 11 years old.
Oh, wow. That's okay.
Yeah. And I was a Slipknot fan before that. That's for sure.
I love Tool. Tool's probably my favorite band in that genre.
And Korn was one of my favorites. And a couple of other ones.
Yeah. I like this segment just because it gives us a little bit of a.
I thought about doing an entire podcast for music myself, personally.
Yeah.
My dad and I probably, hey, so and so was part of this band. They became part of this band. Do you know their backstory? So anyway,
that'd be cool.
Yeah, there's some good stuff out there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully this little segment that we do at the end, you can play on what you enjoy with that. Maybe bring some of that, test some of it out.
Intense. What we usually do, and then this is just playing our favorite song.
Okay, so how about this? We may never be on YouTube again. That's fine. But how about we bring? This? Well, you already brought the song that you played at your funeral. I'm sure you've got more than one.
I've got one that I want played at my funeral.
What's that?
And it's Foghat, Slow Ride.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Take it easy.
That is very Doc sounding.
Yeah.
I've got. So there was a
Patty has that written down on all the important stuff.
I won't mention his name to be respectful of the family, but I grew up with a guy. He was endeared by our entire high school class, and he died way too young, and everybody loved him. And I remember his funeral very, very distinctly, not just because all of our friends were there and he was too young and we were all crying and all that, but they played the song Pink Floyd, "Wish You Were Here."
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, so every time, I mean, and the beauty, the perfection of them playing it there in the song is I'm anchored every time I hear that song. Not only do I have to listen to it, but I think of being there and I think of my friend.
Yeah.
Music is an amazing power.
Yeah.
Like music
Sure.
in and of itself. I usually have music playing at all times. I told you I work from home. I usually have music playing while I'm working from home. Like music is a very
when I'm working at home, I've got the headphones on that only I can hear, and when I walk the dog, I do the same thing. Amazon sent me a list of the 50 top songs that I listened to in 2024, and it was surprising because there's Slipknot's not on there at all, but there's an awful lot of Leonard Skinner, Yes, and Fleetwood Mac.
Yes was fantastic. I love it.
You got me with Yes. The other two, whatever. But Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And Fleetwood Mac, there was something in there that I loved.
Yeah.
And I like some Skinner.
Well, see, I knew Fleetwood Mac before they merged with Buckingham, the other one. Anyway, they merged together and they dumped a couple of guys off, but it was still always Mick Fleetwood on the drums. And
so should we have a theme for our weekly song that we bring, or just bring the song that you want to bring for your own reason?
Yeah,
whatever you want, Chadwick.
Well, I mean,
I got a lot of Linkin Park I can bring too.
I really like.
I'm more. My brain's more classic rock. I'm thinking the next song might be a Genesis song.
Chester, I love Chester, man. His whole story.
And that's a whole nother thing we could talk about because I'm not a big fan of them replacing Chester with this
There's one that made it to my list that I listen to over and over, and it's "Money for Nothing."
Oh, Dire Straits.
Dire,
yeah. Dire Straits.
That's a good one.
And there are some live things where Phil Collins is on the drums, Mark Knopfler, of course, is on the lead guitar, and Eric Clapton is on the other one.
And there's some bands that just had some talent in the.
Oh yeah,
I've already got a song in the chute that could bring some tears. If you guys want to cry, I can bring one to you.
No, okay.
It's a song we know, isn't it?
You don't? No, not you. Probably don't know. it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well,
is the theme bring a song that's going to make Dr. Roy and Chad and Travis cry?
Maybe if you want it, I got it.
It may not, but you know,
I already gave away my secret punch.
When I first got into college, Cream was real big.
Now you're my dad.
Yeah, and well,
it's my dad's language.
Well, your
Rush
dad,
should be
your
a
dad
father's
and I are
language
the
too.
same age.
I don't know why he didn't get. I don't know why he didn't get into. I don't.
No, I'm just saying. Like, okay, so junior high, I had a music appreciation class. And you could bring every Friday. Every student could bring a CD and play a song, play a track.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah.
Halfway through the semester, everybody was like, "All right, Travis, what Rush song you playing today, buddy?"
Yeah.
I mean, it was my dad's favorite band, so he kind of brainwashed me a little bit. But I mean, it's just
when I'd have been that way with Pearl Jam, we wouldn't have been in school because they weren't around when I was in school. But it would have been my, if it were later in life. But it's like until we start talking politics, and then these guys are stupid.
Yeah.
Like if I could have a
music's
conversation,
the music,
the music rises above until they start bringing
Jeremy spoken.
They criticize, and I'm not a Republican, but they criticize Republicans in their music, which I'm fine with. Like I was at a Pearl Jam concert, and he was making fun of it was a anti-war song, and it was making fun of George W. Bush, and he had a mask on, and and I was fine with it. Didn't bother me at all. And then Obama came in, basically doing the same thing policy-wise and whatever, and mum's the word.
Oh yeah.
And then Trump came in, and like the world was ending again, and Trump was going to bring this devastation, and I'm like, okay, you're arguing that one is a war criminal, and then the other one comes in and does just as much or even worse, and you don't say anything. I mean, it's just hypocritical, and that just drives me nuts. But they're still my favorite band.
Party lines, man. Yeah. Party lines.
That's just dumb. I think they're intelligent, and then I'm like, no, there's something else going on there.
Yeah.
Anyway, love you guys.
All right.
I appreciate it.
It's been a great. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It was fun. Good seeing you all. See you all next week.
Yes.
Take care, everybody.